Hello everyone and welcome to round 3 of Ferrari Challenge here in Europe for 2025. It's day 2 of our weekend here in Germany. We are at Hockenheim, the 4.574 kilometer circuit that promises so much and has certainly delivered thus far. Although, dare I say it, the weather conditions today not as nice as we've had up until today. There is the formal welcome to Hockenheim. It's a circuit steeped in history, and that's for sure. It's also a great circuit for our racing drivers because there are many opportunities for overtaking. It's the third round, as I mentioned earlier on. From here, we head off to Brno in the Czech Republic before 2 weekends in Spain. First in Valencia and then the second in Barcelona. Then it's Belgium and Spa-Francorchamps and then Mugello for the Finale Mondiale, the world final event this year, being held in Tuscany in Italy. And there you can see the weather conditions, 22 degrees, the track temperature 17 degrees. The air temperature, some deft editing on that shot, as the people there will get a good vantage point for the racing to come this afternoon. There is Andreas Koenig. We can just see through the tyre trolleys, the 104 car that will be going from P3 on the grid. Come on, right in. There's got to be a slick tyre, hasn't it, Nico Spalek, my very observant German colleague who is alongside me here. That was a slick tyre, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a slick tyre, and the reason we're looking at that with scrutiny is that it was raining this morning and overnight, and therefore all the quali sessions were effectively 99.9% run on wet tyres, with one or two exceptions trying it at the end of the final qualifying sessions. But yeah, it is a dry track, not necessarily on the painted lines and right and left of the circuit, so that bears watching, but the track itself is dry.
Here is Jan Sam, and then the Kessel Racing driver who will be going from P2 on the grid. Now, he certainly was taking it to qualifying earlier on and very nearly put it on P1, but he was denied in the end by Sven Schirmer. I spoke to Sven just at lunchtime, who was saying the weather conditions for him and qualifying were abject perfection. And that's why he was able to maximize his efforts during qualifying. And he did that, and he's put the car on P1. And there indeed, as if by magic, is the 175 car of the Penske Sportwagen Hamburg driver, Sven Schirmer, who this weekend has got the benefit of having two driver coaches, dare I say it, motivating him, Andrea Gagliardini and also Max Blancardi. I mean, you couldn't get two more expressive racing drivers than those two, and both of them at the behest of Sven Schirmer. So we'll see what he can do in terms of converting that pole position into potentially a race win, Nico. I keep looking at the clouds here. There is rain there. There is rain in the air. It's a very, very thick cloud covering, but at the moment it remains dry. Come on, you're a meteorologist in your spare time. It's one of your amateur passions. Are we going to get any rain before the end of this race?
I didn't know that I had that qualification.
No, I just made it up, everybody.
Yeah, fair enough. But no, the forecast is that there might still be rain this afternoon, not necessarily in this race, maybe in the ones later, but who knows? I don't.
Well, and I really rather thought you would. There is Pino Frascaro. Big thumbs up from Pino, who I have to say, like so many of our Ferrari Challenge competitors, is huge of character and huge of fun, and he is doing really well. I mean, he's qualified P6, which is a brilliant qualifying from Pino Frascaro. What can he do in the race? It was race 1 of the weekend. Ferrari Challenge, Copper-Shell-Am. As the cars approached the lights then, and the lights went out, it was a good start from Jan Salmon. Good start also from Boris Gideon, but Andreas Koenig getting something of a slingshot into the turn 1, turn 2 sequence, which puts him up to P3, and he would then put the chase on to Boris Gideon. Sven Schirmer then relegated to P4 as Alexei Komarov and Shintaro Akatsu had something of a coming together through the hairpin, and then all of a sudden around goes the car of Alvaro Ramos. No contact involved with any other car. So it was back further down the order where Lisa Clark losing out, but then getting the switch back and making it work once again. And you could see frustration in the garages, but Andreas Koenig was on something of a mission here and managing to get by Boris Gideon in a place that ordinarily you would not expect an overtake to happen. Alberto Duran and Lisa Clark regrettably would have a coming together, and in the meantime it was Jan Sandman just holding on to this lead, but at this point Andreas Koenig was getting ever closer and the safety car really played into their hands. Jan Sandman running wide, but then Andreas Koenig losing the back end of the car as well, and that meant that his challenge for the lead of the race was over, and it would be Jan Sandman that would head to the checkered flag to take P1 ahead of Boris Gideon, who got a time penalty. So it was Sven Schirmer that took P2 and Charles Chan took P3. So there we have it then, as tyre trolleys are being removed from the grid, which means we're getting ever closer to the race starting. 30 minutes plus 1 lap, as is tradition in the Ferrari Challenge. The challenge, of course, not only here in Europe, but also in Australasia, in the UK, in North America, and indeed this weekend in Autopolis in Japan. It stretches far and wide, you know. The Ferrari Challenge, truly revered one-make series. And Kessel Racing are but one of the teams involved in this, and their driver Jan Sandman going from P2 on the grid. It's not the only driver from Kessel Racing, as we offer a warm welcome back to Stephen Earle, who has not raced since Monza. He too is a Kessel Racing driver and going from P9 on the grid. As we look at Paolo Scudieri right now, he's going from 2 places further up the order. P7 for the Samo car driver. Paolo Scudieri, his time 1:58, then giving him a P7 start. And there is the grid of our Shell Am drivers. They are the first to take it to race 2 across the course of this weekend, then with races to come for our Shell drivers and also our Pirelli and Pirelli Am drivers as well. So the Richard Mills safety car will lead the cars away on a formation lap. It's always a side-by-side start, but they have a rolling start as Jan Sandman in final stages of preparation. Before getting going, he's got a starting position of P2, and he's already going through in his mind, I'm sure, of how he can make it stick against Sven Schirmer, potentially on the opening lap. We'll see if he's able to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And potentially the battle between Sandman and Koenig, which has been raging all weekend effectively, that's also going to be one. Jan Sandman P2, Andreas Koenig P3, and Koenig would certainly like to be on the inside come turn 1, where he's lining up. So certainly going to be very, very fascinating.
And there is Sven Schirmer, is the driver that is going from P1 for this Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell Am race. But just before we get this racing underway, let's take a look at what's happening in the world of esports.
The Ferrari HP Esports Series is back for its 6th successive year. 17,000 drivers registered for last year's series, and this year is set to be better than ever. 2025 marks an important milestone for the Ferrari HP Esports Series as the competition expands to encompass China as part of the 3 regions covered by the series. Multiple competitive stages will be taking place in EMEA, APAC and the Americas. Starting in June, the series is broken down into 4 stages: hot laps, regional qualifiers, regional finals and a land grand final at Ferrari World Yas Island, Abu Dhabi. Register today and join the grid.
That final is something very special at Yas Island, of course, taking part as it does there. And this is the Hockenheim circuit, then 4.574 kilometers, as we've mentioned more than once. Now, 16 or 17 turns, depending on how you count them. I make it 16, 6 left, 10 right. Multiple opportunities for drivers to make an overtake stick. There are stadium sections, there are high-speed sections of this fantastic circuit. Right on cue, right on time. We will bring you the grid in full of our Copa Shell Am drivers for their race 2 of this Ferrari Challenge weekend here at Hockenheim, round 3 of our 2025 season. This is going to be awesome. There we can see the cars going through. As I mentioned, we'll do the grid in full for you, and stand by. Here it comes. From back to front, Alvaro Ramos, P15. Alexei Komarov going from P16. From P14, it's Alberto Duran and Louis Perescu alongside. They complete row 7 on row 6. Hassan Dabusi and Boris Gideon, if I dare say it, out of position. Lisa Clark and Stephen Earle share the 5th row of the grid. It's P10 and P9, respectively. With Shintaro Akatsu, who took a grid drop, and Paolo Scudieri alongside him. Pino Frescaro, brilliant qualifying. Well done, Pino. Alwa Mer alongside. Then it's Charles Chan and Andreas Koenig, both danger drivers, I would say, from row 2 of the grid. And going from P2 is Jan Sandman, but pole position. Well done, Sven Schirmer. So there, the cars continuing on their formation lap with a heavy cloud overhead, as I mentioned. And let's hear right now from Sven Schirmer, the Penske Sportwagen Hamburg driver, on pole position.
Yeah, difficult auditions today, but I think I had the right setup. I cannot say I don't like the track when it's wet. I like it. It can stay wet for the race as well. For me, it's good. It's a much better position from P1 than from P4 as yesterday.
Well, I wonder if your wish will be the weather's command, Mr. Schirmer. What do you think, Nico?
Yeah, I'll stick with the weather forecast, which says probably not, but the second part of his statement that P1 is better than P4, yeah, you betcha.
And at the end of the day, whether Sven prefers the wet or not, he's going from P1. Anybody that's quicker than him, they've got to find a way by him, and that's not so easy.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody lining side by side, the fans here in the Motordrome in eager anticipation.
So then the Richard Mills safety car will indicate right and peel off into the pit lane. It will be the responsibility of Sven Schirmer and Jan Salmon to control the pace of the rolling start then. And we have just a couple of turns to do before they will be left to their own devices. Expect a number of cars to run wide going through turn number 1. We're watching the 137 car of Alberto Duran, or we were. Sven Schirmer and Jan Salmon. Then we throw the lighting gantry to the top of the screen. Who is going to get the jump here? Let's go racing, everybody. And good stuff from Charles Chan, I have to say, who's looking very lively. And Andreas Koenig on the inside of Jan Salmon has to bounce across the curbs. Paolo Scudieri doing his level best to get past the 130 car of... it's not the 130 car, it was the car of Alwa Mer that he was trying to get by the 180 car. Pino Frescaro in car 140, the yellow and silver, but Sven Schirmer did a brilliant job right at the start. He was utterly determined and remains determined. Andreas Koenig has managed to get into P3 and a car off Nico.
I think it was Lisa Clark, if I got that correctly, going very sideways there. We will surely get a replay of there. Certainly Sven Schirmer with a great start. We're always tempted to say hopefully not too good a start, as cars go left, right and center very wide through the hairpin, but I think no contact made there.
Pino Frescaro and Paolo Scudieri here are arguing over that P5 and P6 position. Paolo Scudieri in P5 at the moment. He's trying to chase down Charles Chan, and Jan Salmon P2, Andreas Koenig P3. It's actually Paolo Scudieri up to P4. The start is indeed under investigation, and one questions, and Nico made the question, I didn't, as to whether some starts were more ambitious than others in terms of when the cars got going.
Yeah, it's either you can't start too early and then you have to run through your grid boxes, and first
safety car, forgive me interrupting you.
Yeah, safety car. Possibly, we haven't seen Lisa Clark take any of the sector lines, so that would indicate that probably she may be off the track. Just to finish the thought, you have to be in line and you have to run through your grid boxes, and I'm not sure if that everybody did that in the latter part of the field.
Well, it certainly won't be the first time it hasn't happened, if that is indeed proven to be the case for the start being under investigation. So you're quite right, Lisa Clark has not lit up any of the sector lights, so you thought you saw her running wide just at the start of the parabolica, so we can only assume that the reason for the safety car is because of perhaps a stricken Lisa Clark. Sven Schirmer, Jan Salmon, Andreas Koenig. Sure enough, there is the Lisa Clark car, and looks like she can get it going, and Lisa is perfectly okay. And, well, great shame for her race 2, I have to say, a driver that races not only here in Europe, but also races in North America as well. And from our commentary studio and also from our message board, we can see that Alberto Duran has come into the pit lane. You can't see that on screen other than the P against the A Duran. Okay, here's a replay of the start. Who was it that didn't go through their grid box who went early?
Not clear from that shot. I thought that maybe here in the background, in the middle, you can see a blue car that could have
Debussy.
been. Yeah, could have been. He looked very central. On the track, but you know, race control will have a look at that.
Tell you what, Andreas Koenig did well to hold on to that, bouncing over those curbs, you know. A number of cars going very wide and getting something of a slingshot there, including Charles Chan and Pino Frascaro.
Yeah, and I think Charles Chan gave that P3 position back, because otherwise I think he would have been adjudged to have taken an advantage, because he was clearly ahead of Andreas Koenig through that turn, and then Andreas Koenig got ahead of Chan before the next apex.
And here we can see Lisa Clark. Oh, and that's at speed, Nico.
Yeah, and there you can see a little bit of a contact, I think, with the Alberto Duran car, which would explain why he came into the pit lane.
Right. What a great shame. But Lisa perfectly okay inside the car there. The integral safety of the 296 Challenge car is impressive, beyond impressive, and thankfully Lisa is perfectly okay. So I don't think it's going to be a long safety car intervention by any means.
Yeah, probably just the remainder of this lap, and hopefully after the next one we'll be go back racing.
Yeah, it's too late for the safety car to be called in at this stage of the lap, so just as you quite rightly say, we'll complete this lap, then maybe one more behind the safety car before we go back to racing, of course. It plays into the hands of Sven Schirmer as it's staying dry at the moment, and he'll be very happy that we're behind the safety car, I suspect, because of course he cannot be overtaken or even attempted to. And we can see that Alberto Duran has, I suspect, had some gaffer tape applied to the car, and he's on his way back out of the pit lane again, which is good to see. Unfortunately, it's not going to be the same for Lisa Clark, regrettably, but there we have Max Blancardi and Andrea Gagliardini, who are both driver coaches to Sven Schirmer, looking on, and the safety car will indeed come in at the conclusion of this lap, as can be confirmed on screen in text for you right now. So what will we have? Potentially 22 minutes or so, plus one lap of racing to go.
Yeah, probably something like that. Lights on the safety car still out, but obviously the drivers will have been advised via team radio that that's gonna be just the remainder of this lap, and then we will see who can do what on the restart. Obviously single file restart, not side by side.
Oh, that was aggressive weaving, wasn't it, from Jan Salmon? I just wonder if he got called out there by Sven slowing.
Possibly. I mean, that's always the worst and most embarrassing thing when you crash into someone behind the safety car, but you do a lot of things than just going straight. You have to prepare the car and yourself.
Well, of course, the tyres won't have even actually got up to their heat cycle, so it'll be trying to warm everything up again. There is the back end, if you like, of Giacomo Altoe, who is driver coach to Andreas Koenig, who is P3 at the moment. Look at those dark, dark clouds overhead. The lights are still on the safety car. I would have thought they'd have gone out by now. Indeed, they have now, and the safety car has escaped up the road. So it becomes Sven Schirmer who controls the pace of the restart, and only he can decide when he's going to go for it. But when he does go for it, he's got to stay gone for it. You cannot accelerate, decelerate, accelerate, decelerate. And of course, the likes of Jan Salmon and Andreas Koenig, who we can see right now, they'll be trying to anticipate when Sven Schirmer is going to give it everything.
Yeah, 100%. The two of them have had their battles already this season.
Let's go. So we ride on board with Jan Sandman. This is Sven Schirmer, as the Pirelli tyres protest as we go back to racing again. Sven Schirmer from Jan Salmon, Andreas Koenig and Paolo Scudieri, P4. And those four break away from the rest of the pack, led by Pino Frascaro. Then it's it's Alwar Mayer, then Charles Chan, Boris Gideon, Stephen Earle, Louis Peruskia. And they complete the top 10 as Paolo Scudieri trying to go to the inside of Andreas Koenig here, going into turn number 1. And there is contact between the two of them. That sends Andreas Koenig around. Paolo Scudieri is able to continue, but he's lost an end plate from his rear wing, and actually he's got big damage on the left-hand side as we look at the car with the wheels pointing in the wrong directions. That is an absolute disaster for Paolo Scudieri and also for Andreas Koenig, as right now Jan Sandman tries to harry Sven Schirmer. This is the fight for the lead, and Pino Frascaro is up to P3. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other going into turn 1, would you say, Nico, between Andreas Koenig and Paolo Scudieri?
I'll refrain from making a call. I think Paolo came from very far back, but with only one shot, I wouldn't make up my mind entirely. But there is Jan Sandman. Obviously, he'll be happy. He doesn't have to look in his rearview mirror at Andreas Koenig, but he can totally focus on attacking Sven Schirmer for the lead.
We ride on board where, unfortunately, the onboard camera looking forward on the Jan Sandman car has got some debris on it, and therefore the picture is not as clear as we would like it to be, as he's continuing to chase down the car of Sven Schirmer. On board with Jan Sandman. Jan is looking very lively indeed. Sven Schirmer, though, is able to defend as they start-finish straight. They are so close together. Jan Sandman takes an early break to look at the inside, decides that discretion is the better part of valor, and I think it's going to be Parabolica and into the hairpin where the overtake is going to come. After saying that, he tries to put himself alongside Sven Schirmer going into turn 2. There was nothing doing there. This is where you need to hold on to your hats. As Jan Sandman sets the fastest lap, it's now, I believe, that he will try and line up Sven Schirmer going into the hairpin. You've got 2 lines that you can take into the hairpin. Is Sandman going to go to the inside? It looks like it to me, but he's not quite close enough if he's able to carry more momentum. But I'll tell you what, Sven Schirmer did that hairpin absolutely perfectly. He placed the car exactly where Sandman did not want the car to be placed, and therefore denied Jan any opportunity of getting a little additional momentum, which is what you need to make it work out of turn number 6. Even the hairpin.
Absolutely, yeah. And the 2 front runners have a more than 5 seconds of a gap towards Pino Frascaro, so we're effectively talking 2 different races between the front 2 and the rest of the pack. Obviously, one part of that being the incident between Paolo Scudieri and Andreas Koenig, both of which took both of them effectively out of the race as well. So we run through the Motordrome, and we have that great vantage point from the Jan Sandman car. Best cameraman on the track right now, and pretty good race driver as well.
Pete, he didn't wipe the lens before he started the race. I mean, he was probably quite busy, wasn't he, in terms of preparing for the race, but even so. Incident involving cars 101 and 104, which is Andreas Koenig and Paolo Scudieri, is going to be looked at after the race. You're right, Paolo came from a long way back. Was Andreas just not aware of him being there? 6 of one, half a dozen of the other in terms of how we look at it. Thankfully, we're not in race control. Davide Rigon is, and he will advise from a driver's perspective. He is Ferrari factory driver, of course, as Sven Schirmer responds to Jan Sandman's fastest lap by setting the fastest lap of the race so far as they head to the hairpin once again. And Jan Sandman not as close on this occasion, as here comes strife for Pino Frascaro, potentially from Charles Chan. They're side by side. Now Pino runs just a little bit wide. You can see also in there Alwar Mayer and Boris Gideon, who also will want to take advantage, but I think for Charles Chan it's job done, isn't it? Up to P3. Pino Frascaro therefore relegated to P4. And well, now he's been released from Pino. He is up the road a little bit, so we will see whether he can get on terms with Sandman and Schirmer, which is going to be a tall order because there's like 6 seconds he's got to make up.
Yeah, absolutely. Meanwhile, Andreas Koenig, he's moving back up the order. He's caught up with the Crocodile and is now in P11 and trying to improve his position. There are still points to be had for him, even though the race obviously is not where he started it. But there's no lying down for Andreas Koenig, even when misfortune befalls him.
These two, well, they've just been following in their wheel tracks for lap after lap. Let's go back on board with Jan Sandman right now. the Kessel driver, as the looming dark clouds continue to be there. Under braking, he gets closer to Sven Schirmer through turn 2, through turn 3 right now, and it is utterly full chat flat. Parabolica heading up towards the hairpin through the gearbox. An extraordinary speed in this 296 Challenger car. 3-litre twin turbo, the V6 can manufacture over 700 HP. A fantastic racing car. So Sven Schirmer, let's run the telemetry on both of them. And we did, if only for a moment, as Stephen Earle, is it getting to the inside of Mare there? Not, yes, no, hasn't quite done it. It was Boris Gideon is the car ahead. Boris Gideon now chasing down Pino Frascaro, and that of course will be for P4 in the race.
Yeah, and Boris Gideon had a terrible qualifying by his standards,
yes,
to be honest, and he has significantly made up ground, and you wouldn't bet against him possibly taking it to Pino Frascaro and making him defend, and that would certainly salvage valuable points for him in the championship.
But of course, the more these four are fighting, it's playing into the hands of the likes of Schirmer and Sandman and Charles Chan, who's disappeared up the road as well now, but he's going to have to really go for it in terms of trying to get on terms with these two, P1 and P2. Jan Salmon throws the car through the curves in turn 1. Heading up towards turn 2 right now for Jan Salmon. We stay on board with him into the right-hander. Hassan Debussy is getting a drive-through penalty for incorrect starting alignment. I can see that on my message board, and that will be why the start was under investigation. Nico, you called it as it was nothing other than the fact that didn't drive through his grid box, and Louis Peruscu is going to get the same penalty as Sandman. Lines up Sven Schirmer. Confirmation of those drive-through penalties on screen for you now. It was because of incorrect alignment at the start. Now, another driver getting a penalty is going to be Alberto Duran. And that will be for the incident, presumably, that took Lisa Clark out of the race very early on the opening lap, I believe that was. But we have to keep our eyes on this right now, because now Jan Salmon has got ever closer to Sven Schirmer. Sven is doing a good job of defending. He's got to keep this up for the next 15 minutes plus 1 lap. That's going to be a tall order, but Jan Salmon's taken a lot out of the car. He's set the fastest lap, and he's got Charlie Hollings, his driver coach, in his ears, probably telling him where is the best place to try and put a move on the Penske Sportwagen Hamburg driver that is ahead of him, Nico.
Yeah, Jan Salmon is arguably the quicker of the two, which doesn't help him all that much, as long as Sven Schirmer is not making a mistake and being so cool, calm and collected in defending. And fair play to Sven Schirmer, who's really, really showing his racecraft and his skill and his speed this season, and especially today. And there is Charles Chan. In fairness, he is obviously released from the drivers in front of him. He hasn't been able to reduce the gap to the top 2 runners in spite of their battling. So, you know, the one thing that those two at the front don't want is a safety car, which would eliminate that gap.
That's a very fair point. So there is Pino Frascaro, who is able to defend from Boris Gideon. Here comes Stephen Earle on Alwa Mare, not quite close enough to be able to do so. I wonder if there'll be 2 attempts from either of those drivers going into the hairpin, which is where the cars will be heading next, as Hassan Debussy serves his drive-through penalty. And he comes back out again, the 111 car of Hassan Debussy, coached by Daniel Mancinelli. Another driver who knows a thing or two about winning Ferrari Challenge races. Right, here's Louis Peruscu as we split the screen. Had he got a drive-through penalty, Nico? I think he had, but it looks like he's parked the car as well.
Yeah, certainly decided to bring it in. Rather than just running through pit lane, whatever there was in terms of an issue. Doesn't look like anybody's in a particular hurry to get that car out again. So
that's fair.
Unfortunately for Lewis, that means any chance for points in this race probably have gone. Whereas Andreas Koenig is up into 9th position, is putting the pressure on Shintaro Akatsu, who in turn is putting the pressure on Stephen Earle. We focus back on our 2 front runners.
Jan just diving out of the draft behind the Sven Schirmer car, just taking a look at the inside. What he's trying to do is fill Sven Schirmer's rearview mirrors with his car and trying to provoke the smallest of errors from Sven Schirmer so that Jan Salmon, like a viper, could go through. But at the moment, there's no mistakes coming from Sven Schirmer. He's doing a great job of defending us. Right now, Boris Gideon to the inside of Pino Frascaro. And discretion, the better part of valor. He bailed out of that, Nico, because he knows that he would have caused a collision. Racing room is left by Sven Schirmer, but Jan Salmon didn't quite have enough. I wonder whether Salmon now will be able to get side by side. It will be a drag race through the next turn, which is taken full chat flat, but no, Salmon can't quite do it. It's the traction and momentum you need. He looks to the inside, looks to the outside right now. He is like an ill-fitting shirt all over the back of Sven Schirmer. Jan Salmon doing his level best to find a way through, to try and get Schirmer to make a mistake. He is running oh so close. And Nico, I know we talk in Formula racing about dirty air. It's really difficult for Jan Salmon, for lap after lap, for corner after corner, to continue to be so close to Sven Schirmer. It must be compromising the handling of his car a little bit.
You would think so, but Jan Salmon has no inclination to show it, and he's obviously ducking out of the slipstream every now and then. I think more to try and unsettle and sell Sven Schirmer a dummy, but thus far Sven Schirmer is not buying.
11 minutes plus 1 lap remaining. And I would suggest that Sven is defending very steadfastly, but he's quite smooth in so doing. Salmon now makes a move going towards turn number 2. Hasn't put himself right alongside, has to duck out of it. The point I was going to make is that Schirmer is smoother. He's having to be on his mettle, but Jan is really, really having to drive that car. He'll be taking so much out of his Pirelli rubbers. Now, of course, in qualifying earlier on, they didn't use these tyres, did they? So they've got the most longevity that they would ever have in a set of slick tyres because they didn't use them in quali.
Absolutely fair point, and I think that's also obviously something that is the driver and the team take into control. You know, okay, you really have the longevity, you have the full capacity of the tyres.
Maximum, yeah.
And so you can push more than you otherwise could, but 10 minutes remaining, and Sven Schirmer, he hasn't put a wheel wrong.
No, he hasn't. And it's really, really impressive driving from both of them, because it would be oh so easy for there to be a ding between them, but there hasn't been. And fair play to Pino Frascaro, who is defending from Boris Gideon, who gets sideways, and that opens up the door just a little bit to Stephen Earl. Forgive me, Nico, Boris Gideon has not been on the form that we saw right at the start of the season. There you can see the Auer car. And just see into the back of the shot as well, Andreas Koenig.
Yeah, and Shintaro Katsu, to his credit, has really held Andreas Koenig at bay, who at some point looked like he would just be moving past this group, but nothing doing. Shintaro Katsu really cool, calm and collected on his part, keeping his place and keeping Andreas Koenig behind him. And so does Pino Frascaro. He's been overtaken once, but after that he has really held firm and steady, and it's not a podium position anymore for him provisionally, but a P4 would be hugely respected.
It would, and I have to say I've been really impressed with the defensive driving that we've seen. Defensive driving sometimes can be just as awe-inspiring as overtaking.
Absolutely, and Pino Frascaro, in contrast to some of the other drivers, last year he was still racing the 488, so the 296 for him is an even newer car than for most of the others.
Good point, well made. So we watch the cars now around the Parabolica. Shintaro Akatsu is having a go at Auer for P7. And here comes Boris Gideon, again just showing his face to the inside, but he's not close enough to be able to do anything. In the meantime, Shintaro Akatsu, Andreas Koenig, Auer all together here, and now Shintaro surely has done enough. He goes through. It was the classic. Well, it wasn't even a switchback, was it? Because he hadn't died, he just dived to the inside, got good momentum out, and he was able to. That's where you can use that hairpin so well.
Absolutely, and for Shintaro Katsu, rather than having to defend against Andreas Koenig, he's now moving up the order and actually having put a car cushion between them.
Yep. There is Andreas Koenig then fighting his way back from the earlier contact. And Shintaro Akatsu now steadfast in that P7 position. Sven Schirmer has built a margin between himself and Jan Salmon now of very nearly 4/10, Nico.
Well, that's actually not that much, but
No.
it's almost 10 seconds between this fight group and Chan behind them. So that is a big, big gap. And then Chan on his side has 6 seconds to the good to Pino Frascaro. So we're almost talking 3 different races, and this was maybe the closest that Jan Salmon had been through this part of the track.
I would just so love to have team radio available to us in our to hear what Charlie is saying, his driver coach to Sven Schirmer, and in turn what Max Blancardi and Andrea Gagliardini are saying to Sven Schirmer in terms of defending. Right, Sven places the car in the middle of the track, which is his right to do. He has got track position, and he's got the right to place the car wherever he wants to. Jan Salmon has got to try and find a way by, and that's awfully difficult. So Salmon, we run the telemetry then, takes that Little King full jacked flat, then hard on the brakes. Brake-by-wire system on these 296 Challenge cars, which is one of the intricacies of this fantastic racing car, which is the more difficult to master, I am told by our drivers. When you get the feeling for the brake-by-wire, it works brilliantly. So we stay on board now. Salmon takes a little bit of the curb and a little bit of the grass as well in his quest to get on terms with Sven Schirmer, where he's been for lap after lap after lap. But he's not been able, A, to make Sven Schirmer make a mistake, or B, find a gap where he can truly place an overtake move.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not for lack of trying,
No.
but equally he's not overdriving it, I believe. He's still smart and sensible. Jan Salmon knows that he also has points to gain in the championship.
I'm just being told by my director, as we see Stephen Earle here, just making contact with Boris Gideon. I am being told by our broadcast director, who has got access to team radio, that Andrea Gagliardini is telling Sven Schirmer to push like a monster. And that, unfortunately, means the day of Boris Gideon goes from bad to worse, I would say, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could see that, I think Stephen Earle was involved in that initially,
Yes,
and that led to all sorts of contact. And
And now back-marking cars, will that play into this lead battle potentially? There's debris on the track, but no, it doesn't.
good driving from the back-marking car. I think
Yes.
that's Alberto Duran there.
Yes.
And he really fairly kept out of it. Under 5 minutes plus a lap remaining.
Push like a monster. I think that's what he said, as opposed to... yeah, so that's what he's got to do. And in fairness, I've been so impressed with both of these drivers, because the fight has been fraught, but it's been fair. And Jan has not put a foot wrong in terms of trying to overtake, and Sven has not given him the opportunity to overtake because he's not put a foot wrong. So that's really difficult. I think you're right, Nico. I think probably Salmon is quicker, but he's got to find a way by, and he's not been able to do that.
Yeah, there was a minimal error, a little bit of a sideways moment for Sven, which allowed Salmon to come even closer. I don't think overtaking here is possible on the straight. Maybe into the next sequence of turns or into the parabolica. Sven really has to be on his mettle here, I believe.
We've still got a yellow flag waving at turn 6, which is the hairpin, which would be a natural place to go for an overtake, but you're not going to be allowed to do that because of the yellow flag. Although that's been rescinded, Nico.
Yeah, that changes the situation again. But
the dynamics are different. Charlie Hollings, you can see on the split shot there, who is Jan Salmon's driver coach. I'm not sure Jan is as close to Schirmer as he has been previously.
no, I don't think so. And Sven Schirmer really made that previous sequence of turns his, and therefore gapped Jan Salmon just enough, 3.5 minutes.
And there's now debris on the line that you would want to take if you were going to go for the inside line on Schirmer coming out of the hairpin. So presumably Salmon is going to be prevented from using that through danger of picking up on that debris and giving himself a puncture. So that is that's limiting the options he's got.
Yeah, he's still trying, and I think he's now throwing everything at this in the final stages, knowing that it's effectively now or never. 3 minutes, well, that's probably going to be 3 more laps after this one. In the meantime, Katsu is now in P5, and Andreas Koenig, after being spun around earlier, is back into 6th position. Very, very creditable drive from the Austrian, from effectively disaster at the beginning of the race, and there we pick up the 2 of them.
I agree with you. He has Shintaro Akatsu ahead, running P5. 2 minutes, 20 seconds and a lap to do before the end of this really rather compelling Ferrari Challenge Shell-Am race that we've been enjoying. As Andreas Koenig, as Nico makes the point, from way back down the order, has fought his way back into P6 at the moment. Can he make it P5 before the end of the race? If I'm honest with you, I think it'll be a tall order, but what he's achieved so far is really remarkable. Sven Schirmer, what he's achieved is remarkable as well, as he's maintained that 3/10 margin between himself and Jan Sandman, and furthermore kept himself ahead of Jan Sandman for virtually the entire race. It's been a relentless pursuit by Sandman that Schirmer has just had to... Oh, and he's been overtaken by Sandman. Wow. So Sandman has done it. I was about to say Schirmer has had to soak it up like a sponge. He did it at the hairpin. And to be fair, that was a perfectly legitimate, fair overtake, and credit to Schirmer as well. Racing room, I mean, here we go, on board. Jan spots the opportunity. I think Sven probably went a bit wider than he did. Where Sandman was very clever on the exit of the hairpin was he placed the car exactly as Max Plancardi, Sven Schirmer's driver coach, didn't need to say anything because the facial expression said it all, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. And wow, I mean, again, great driving from both of them. Fair driving.
Respectful.
You're exactly right. Jan Sandman made sure that once he was on the inside,
you're not coming back at me.
Yeah, no way. And now you can see that Jan Sandman, the quicker of the 2, has gapped Sven Schirmer a little bit. With 30 seconds left on the clock, it's this lap, or the remainder of it, plus 1 more.
I just so hope, if it stays this way, that at the end of the race that those guys embrace each other in the way that they should, because it has been remarkable racing between them, as Andrea Gagliardini and Max Plancardi are righting the wrongs of Sven Schirmer. Of course, it's easy for them to do it and sit there, isn't it? They're not pedaling the car.
Maybe the 2 driver coaches now have to argue whose fault it was. But anyway, Andreas Koenig is trying to even improve 1 more on his quest to come back and recover positions. And just to finish that point, I'm sure they will embrace 100%.
I hope so, and they deserve it, because they have given us some fantastic action. I tell you what, I've just noticed that the rear end plate on the Andreas Koenig rear wing is flexing slightly, so he's got a bit of damage to the car as well, which has probably hampered his progress back up the order. And when you consider what you look at it flapping, Nico, you can see there it is, flapping away. So it's one of the mounts broken, I suspect. So what I'm trying to say is that, you know, for him, it's ever more remarkable to have achieved what he has achieved in terms of a comeback.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Andreas Koenig has really held the pace of the front runners for the majority of the race ever since that incident, and that is remarkable enough. Also, credit, he hasn't been involved in as much as we start the final lap. Pino Frascaro still holding on to that 4th position. Very good and consistent driving.
Good, consistent defensive driving. We've seen a lot of it during the course of this race. Car number 100 picking up a 10-second time penalty for causing a collision. And that's the car of Stephen Earle. You can see confirmation of that time penalty decision on your screen right now. Here then, the car of Charles Chan running in P3 for Formula Racing. He's kind of been a bit lonely out there. Once he got past Pino Frascaro, he's kind of been out on his own. There is Sean Hudspeth, one of the driver coaches. You can see down there working on behalf of his drivers. And for the last time of asking in this race, Jan Sandman has navigated his way through the hairpin. And he's just got the stadiums section of the Hockenheim ring to do before he will see the checkered flag unfurled for him. It's been a brilliant race. He's built 2.5 seconds worth of margin between himself and Sven Schirmer, which just proves the pace that he's got. But it has been an extraordinary race between both of them, and they've delivered some truly exciting racing for us. And, there we can see Jan Salmon then rounding the final sequence of turns. Sudkurva, double apex for the last time of asking, before he heads towards the checkered flag. And in our Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell-Am Race 2, Jan Salmon is victorious. He takes P1. Sven Schirmer is going to be P2. And then it's going to be Charles Chan, who's had something of a lonely existence, for P3, but he takes it. And there you can see Andreas Koenig had managed to get past Shintaro Akatsu, but Pino Frascaro takes P4, Andreas Koenig P5. What a comeback. Shintaro Akatsu P6. Then it's going to be Alwar Mer. And we've kind of hardly mentioned Alexei Komarov, and apologies for that, but there's been so much going on. Very creditable P8. And there you can see confirmation of the winner, Jan Salmon. Wow. I'm going for a lie down. It's over to you.
Wow, what a race. I mean, you sometimes think that, oh, obviously if you win, you're the driver of the race, but sometimes you've got someone else who's just performed so incredibly, and aptly we see Andreas Koenig, but you can make a case for so many drivers, as I think we will see the final overtake, and there it is, Andreas Koenig with a damaged rear wing, goes on the inside, no touch, forces Shintaro Akatsu outside without even touching, and just, positions the car and makes the overtake on the final lap. P5 for Andreas Koenig. I mean, you can make a case for Sven Schirmer, Jan Salmon, Pino Frascaro, Andreas Koenig, Alexei Komarov. Really, really good driving from a lot of our contestants. And yeah, Jan Salmon, I'm sure, will be very happy. And I think Sven Schirmer will be a little bit upset that he held it for 28.5 minutes and then relinquished the lead, but I think he has every reason to be very proud, and I think he will be.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he will just say, do you know what, I did it for as long as I could, but that was it. I was spent. There was nothing more I could do, and yeah, I'm in awe of the drivers. They've done a fantastic job, Nico. Really, really good job. A really good race, an enjoyable race. And there is Jan Salmon parked up, and his Kessel engineer hauls him out of the car. And I mean, there's Charlie, his driver coach. And I have to say, as you well know, Nico, Charlie has spent some time on the air with us, and is very free in terms of the information that he gives us, and he's very kind, and he's done a brilliant job. I just hope that the respect between those two drivers is as it should be, because it was a supreme fight between the two of them, and I hope our RF camera stays there so that we can see Sven Schirmer out of the car, who won't be quite as fleet of foot of getting out of the car as Jan Salmon was, maybe.
Wait for it.
I mean, there is an age deficit between the two of them, to be fair. As Max Blancardi. Don't help him, Max, will you? I'm holding the door, Dave. What more do you want me to do? I mean, they should be very proud of their driver.
Yeah.
What a fight between those two. Confirmation of the classification then. Jan Salmon taking the win from Sven Schirmer and Charles Chan. They are the drivers you'll see on the podium. Then it's Pino Frascaro, Andreas Koenig, Shintaro Akatsu and Alwar Mer, with Alexei Komarov taking P8. Ahead of Hassan Debussy, Alvaro Ramos, Alberto Duran, Stephen Earl, Boris Gideon, Louis Perusquia, Paolo Scudieri. And, well, I've run out of things to say, really, which is very unusual for me, but what a race indeed from our Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell-Am drivers, one which they should be very proud of what they have delivered for us, because it's been awesome. Okay, so let's hear from the driver of the 186 car then for Kessel Racing, and that's Jan Sandman. Well done, Jan. Victorious.
Jan, congratulations. What a perfect weekend for you. 1 pole position and 2 victories here in Hockenheim ring. Today was a tough race, but a lot of fun, as you said before. You wait the best moment to overcome, Sven.
Yes, this was my weakness in the past. This time I was patient all the time. I stayed behind him. I have to say I had a lot of fun behind him. So also shout out to him. He was really nice driving. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, I waited for the right moment, and then yes, at the end it worked out.
Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That was really nice to hear, as Jan Sandman crediting Sven Schirmer for saying, you know what, we had a lot of good racing. Here come the highlights of our Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell Am race. Going from the front row of the grid would be Jan Sandman, but going from pole position would be Sven Schirmer as the cars were released on their rolling start. Then a couple of drivers perhaps out of position right at the start of the race. Good start from Sven Schirmer. Good start too from Andreas Koenig, who had to bounce it across the curbs. And Charles Chan running to the outside. And Sven Schirmer from the car of Jan Sandman. Lisa Clark taking a run through the grass and into the barriers, which was very sad to see. And Paolo Scudieri and Andreas Koenig having a coming together, which would hamper both of their races. In the meantime, P1 and P2 were up the road. Charles Chan and Pino Frascaro at the hairpin were deciding who would be P3, and it would be Charles Chan that managed to get his car ahead of Pino Frascaro. It was the fight back like never before from Andreas Koenig, as he had to make his way all the way from the back of the pack back again. And Hassan Tabusi right here on Alvaro Ramos, but Alvaro Ramos going for the switchback here and almost making it work, and Stephen Earle carrying just a little bit too much speed into the side of Boris Gideon. And there were drama-filled moments in that Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell race, and 1 or 2 mirrors going for a Burton, but going for an overtake. He'd been patient and waited for the right time, and Jan Sandman finally made it stick, and he took the win in Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell Am ahead of Sven Schirmer and Charles Chan, who finished P3, having had something of a lonely existence in that 3rd position. What a brilliant race.
Yeah, but 2 P3s for Charles Chan. That's a good weekend's haul for him, and doesn't really have to be exciting, does it?
Up to the podium we go then with Michele Mambelli, who will be orchestrating the podium festivities, if you will. And once again, I just want to say shout out to Jan Sandman for in that interview with Ludovica for just putting a shout out to Sven Schirmer as well, because Sven did a brilliant job of defending for so many laps. But taking P3 for Formula Racing, here comes Charles Chan. P2 in the end for Sven Schirmer. And Jan Sandman is the race winner. And Kessel Racing, of course, represented on the podium. Here comes the anthem. We go for the economy versions of the anthems so that we can get on with the action here. And Davide Rigon then, Ferrari factory driver, making the trophy presentation to Charles Chan. It's Sven Schirmer, the Penske Sportwagen Hamburg driver, that receives P2. And Jan Sandman for Kessel Racing. He's had a good weekend here at Hockenheim.
The trophy for the team Kessel.
Copa Team trophy, of course, will be awarded to Kessel Racing by Davide Rigon.
And now, please, all drivers.
Everyone gets together on the top step of the podium for the photographs, including Kessel Racing and, of course, our Ferrari factory driver, Davide Rigon.
Photos, from
And by no doubt, it will be
shall,
Salmon who will be winning the champagne race, he says with all the confidence.
Attention, please.
As Davide
Now,
Rigon
guys,
makes haste his escape.
Champagne!
Well, I was wrong. It was Shermer. I'm always wrong. Ah, well. No one ever said it would be easy. P3 for Formula Racing. And the car 133. We saw Sven Schirmer very bit. This is not the second place car of Sven Schirmer. This is the first place car of Jan Salmon. We saw the Sven Schirmer car, but for a fleeting glance. Well, how does that change things in terms of the Drivers' Championship? Well, it means that Sven Schirmer is ahead of Boris Gideon by 14 points as we head to the next round, which, of course, will be in the Brno circuit. Andreas Koenig and Henrik Kamstrup are P3 and P4 in the Drivers' Championship. But Sven Schirmer still leading on 66 points. And as I say, the next racing for our Copa Am drivers will come at the Brno circuit in the Czech Republic. I almost can't wait the 2 weeks I've got to before we go racing once again. So, with the sun beginning to break through the heavy cloud here at Hockenheim, the Copa Am drivers' races are done and dusted. And they've delivered some fantastic racing for us, and today was no exception to that. The battle for the lead was one that will be talked about for ages and ages. Hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Bear in mind here at Hockenheim, we still have a Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli Am race and a Copa Shell race to come as well. But from all of us on our production team and broadcast team, thank you for watching the Copa Shell Am race. Bye-bye for now. Hi everyone, a very good afternoon to you and welcome to the Baden-Württemberg area of Germany. It's Hockenheim for round 3 of our Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli AM Racing. 30-minute race plus 1 lap. It's the second race of the weekend, and thankfully the weather conditions have improved significantly from qualifying this morning, which took place very much in the wet, but now as you can see it's dry and even the sun is beginning to shine a bit. There is the formal and official welcome to Hockenheim, and there is the circuit, which I have to say is one of my favorites, 4.574 kilometers long. It is the third round of our 2025 calendar. From here, it's exactly 701 kilometers to the Brno circuit in the Czech Republic, which is round 4. Then 2 dates in Spain, first of those in Valencia. Then it's Barcelona for round 6. Ahead of Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. And then the finale mondiale this year being held at the Mugello circuit mid-October to bring to a close another fantastic season of Ferrari Challenge racing. 30 degrees the track temperature, the air temperature is 18 degrees. There's just 9 kilometers per hour or so of wind around at the moment, and that's a lovely shot of our grid made up of both Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli AM drivers. Now, you can easily distinguish between the 2 categories. The Pirelli drivers, like you see there with Felix Herziger, the number 30 car, it has a red strip across the top of the windscreen. If it's an AM driver, then it will have a white strip across the top of the windscreen. Having a green strip across the top of his forehead is my co-commentator, Nico Spelek. Hello.
I didn't know that. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trofeo Pirelli here at Hockenheim. It was a very, very wet qualifying session this morning as it had rained all night long. It has dried up, and looking at the weather forecast, in spite of the clouds overhead, we will have a dry race by all indications. You never 100%, but it's quite likely.
Yasin Ferrati, the ML Ferrari racing driver, will be going from P2. Now, in his quest to get to P1 during qualifying earlier on today, he put the car in the barriers. He was pushing so hard and not too much damage was done, but the ML Ferrari racing team had to do some work on that car between qualifying and the race because the rear wing was damaged and 1 or 2 other little components. It was quite an innocuous touch of the barriers in the end because the gravel trap did its job and slowed the car right down. And of course, they were not going at speeds that you would normally associate with the Ferrari Challenge cars by dint of the fact it was wet. This is Vincenzo Scarpetta then. He will be going from P5 on the grid. Of course, do bear in mind, we'll bring you the grid rundown in full before the start of the race. In fact, we'll do it when the cars are on their formation lap. As always, a rolling start in the Ferrari Challenge. And they will be led around by the safety car, which you can see right now. Let's take a look at the highlights of race 1. Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli AM. 5 minutes away from the start of the race, and the tension was palpable. As the cars headed towards the lighting gantry and got underway then, it was Henri Assis that almost found the grass and controlled it beautifully. However, it wasn't going to be good control for the likes of Max Mugelli, Dylan Medler and Quinn Wittelsbach, all of them finding the exit of turn 1 regrettably, and that would bring out the safety car straight away right at the start of the race, and Marco Zanassi having something of a moment, and he of course was leading in the Pirelli AM Championship going into this race. He'd put it on pole position, but it all went horribly south right at the start of the race for him. That brought out another safety car. So, as we rode on board there, that was what it was like, and that was what it was like for Armin Arifpour, who found himself in the gravel, which would bring out yet another safety car. So, Andrew Morrow was another driver. Regrettably, the Gremlins, for whatever reason, meaning that the race was done for the number 4 car, all of which culminated in the fact that it would be an extraordinary sprint right at the end of the race duration period. And who would be successful? Well, of course, a number of drivers trying to have a go, including Herbert Geis and Hanno Laskowski and David Akabadze and David Gosner then going out into the runoff area. It would be Felix Herziger that would eventually win for the Pirelli drivers, and then for the Pirelli AM drivers it would be the Scuderia Prague racing driver Hendrik Viol that would be Victoria. Great to see those celebrations from race 1. Who will be celebrating from race 2? Only time will tell, as we see everyone now making their way away from the grid. And it will be just the essential engineer that will be left on the grid, along with the car and the driver. All other non-essential personnel will be asked very politely to leave the grid. And there is the Dylan Medler car with a slightly different colours now across it as damage, as we saw him going off in turn 1 yesterday. He'll be hoping for better luck today. Dylan Medler, driver of the number 15 car, who's had a win in Europe this year. He took the second race at Monza and also was racing just last weekend in his home gig, if you like, in Miami, and that's where he comes from. Does Dylan, and he's a great addition to our Ferrari Challenge Europe lineup. And there is Henri Assi taking on some water just ahead of the start of the race, Nico.
Yeah, Henri Assi was our champion in Coppa Shell last year, was elevated to Trofeo Pirelli Am and did so well that he was elevated once again, is now competing in Trofeo Pirelli, did a good job in qualifying, P6. And just a few moments away from the race, anticipation is building inside the cars and also in the grandstands.
Absolutely. So Felix Herziger, P1 for our Pirelli drivers, for our Pirelli Am drivers, Hendrik Vial. But delighted to welcome to the grid this weekend the Radici Automobili driver Enzo Trulli.
Sono Enzo Trulli, 20 anni. Sono cresciuto, diciamo, nel motorsport. Mio padre correva in Formula 1, quindi sin da bambino ero nel paddock, sentivo i rumori dei 10 cilindri. Ho iniziato in go-kart a 10 anni, poi sono passato alle macchine, ho fatto Formula 4, ho vinto il campionato di Formula 4, ho fatto Formula 3 e l'anno scorso sono passato in GT3 e ora sono qua col Ferrari Challenge. È una nuova esperienza ma molto positiva. Sicuramente quando pensi alle macchine da corsa pensi subito a Ferrari. È un sogno da bambino e ora vorrei continuare a lavorare con loro e magari un giorno arrivare in alto. Conoscendo Ferrari e il paddock, sì, mi aspettavo così, non mi aspettavo l'hospitality così grande e così bella. È sicuramente una bellissima emozione quando cammini al mattino e vedi lo stemma Ferrari gigante sull'hospitality. Questa pista è sicuramente storica, ha una storia immensa. Mi piace che è, diciamo, abbastanza vecchio stile, quindi se sbagli rischi di andare fuori, c'è l'erba, ghiaia, quindi è molto bello come circuito, molto tecnico e penso anche per le gare sia molto interessante perché con un lungo rettilineo si possono fare molti sorpassi e comunque non sai mai chi c'hai dietro, poi magari ti fa una bella staccata. Faccio qualche errore apposta per vedere dov'è il limite, fino a dove posso spingere. C'ho ancora sicuramente tantissimo da imparare. Comunque sì, sto imparando sessione dopo sessione, sempre di più la macchina, sempre di più i freni. Qua c'è la mia macchina con cui correrò questo weekend, la Ferrari 296 Challenge. Da vedere, devo dire, molto bella, da guidare anche. Sì, in pista sono da solo, ma c'è tutto un lavoro dietro con un sacco di persone, quindi è importantissimo avere un team che ti supporta perché non si smette mai di imparare, specialmente quando il team è nuovo, io sono nuovo in questa categoria. Seguite le gare del Ferrari Challenge, sarà un weekend interessante in una pista fantastica come Hockenheim.
Enzo, we're delighted you're on the grid, and I have to say I spent some time with Enzo and Jarno Trulli last night, and they are terribly lovely people, and Enzo clearly a star in the making, no question about that. 4.574, the Hockenheim circuit then, 16 turns, and 6 of them are left, and 10 of them are right-handers, and as Enzo was saying in that really rather lovely piece, that the track is quite technical in places, in other places it's full chat flat. Where you make it work is really rather your opinion. And your choice. The race is about to get underway. Stand by, we'll bring you the grid in full as the cars are released on their formation lap. I remind you, the Pirelli drivers with the red strip across the top of the windscreen. Pirelli Am drivers with the white strip across the top of the windscreen, and we'll do the grid from back to front. just see the hospitality here that Enzo was talking about in that shot as the cars will weave from side to side and try and generate some temperature into the Pirelli tyres. Here comes the grid then in full for you. Going from P22, it's Armin Arifpour. Otto Blank will go from P21. They're both AM drivers, Matt Rosner and Rafael Duran. They go on the 10th row of the grid. It's P20 and 19. David Akabadze and Herbert Guys, they are P18 and 17. Herbert Guys out of position, as too is Andrew Morrow. And there's Danilo Del Favro going from P15. 14 is David Gosner, Hanno Luskowski from P13. And on the 6th row, we find Marco Zanassi and Mikael Verhagen. Fastest of the AM drivers was Hendrik Viol. He has Quinn Vidlisbach, Pirelli driver, alongside him. And then it's Max Mugelli and Enzo Trulli, who we just heard from, going from P8 and 7. From 6 and 5, Henri Acid and Vincenzo Scarpetta. Then it's Gilles Renman and Dylan Medler, both danger drivers from the 2nd row of the grid, but ahead of them are Yasin Ferrati and yesterday's race winner, Felix Herziger, goes from pole position. So Felix Herziger doing a very good job in qualifying earlier on today, but qualifying, of course, was in the wet. Nonetheless, he took pole position. Let's hear from him right now.
Yeah, amazing first qualifying in the wet here. First time for me in this car in wet conditions, and it took me some laps to get accommodated with it, but it's an incredible car in the wet, so much grip. So I had to get used to having a lot more speed in the corners than what I've known. So I'm very happy for the team, Ram, and for my sponsor Neupack to now have another pole position. And let's see what we can do in the race. If it's wet, we know we have a good car. And if it's dry, we also know we have a good car. So all good.
Okay, great to hear from Felix there. Nico, stand by. Pirelli and Pirelli AM drivers. It's not wet conditions as it could have been. It's going to be bone dry, we think, for this race.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting at the very front. It's also be interesting among the M drivers because they find themselves within the pack, just behind the Pirelli drivers. So arguably they have it even more difficult than those at the very front.
It's a very fair point you make. As the Richard Mills safety car will peel off into the pit lane, it will be the responsibility of Felix Herziger and Yasin Ferrati to control the pace of the rolling start. Every car has to go through their grid box, otherwise the start will be deemed unsatisfactory. So let's see how they do. There's David Gosner in the number 50 car. It's a big, big grid of cars, some 22 of our Pirelli and Pirelli AM drivers. We throw the lighting gantry to the top of the screen for you. Every driver, you must go through your grid box before the start of the race gets underway. Let's go racing, drag race to turn number 1 then, and Felix Herziger and Yasin Ferrati hanging it around turn number 1. Hendrik Viol looking like he's okay, and Yasin Ferrati is absolutely determined to stay with Felix Herziger and try and make a move right at the start of this race. He's not going to be able to hang it around the outside going through turn number 2, and that disadvantages him and plays into the hands potentially of Dylan Medler and also Gilles Renmans, possibly. So it is Felix Herziger leading from Yasin Ferrati, and here side by side there's an argument going on for that P3 place, I would suggest. It's P4 and P5 actually that's been contested. Dylan Medler has made P3 his own. He's looking for P2 as well. Henri Acid trying to come around the outside. The start is under investigation. Quelle surprise, as a number of cars have gone off at the hairpin. I can see, didn't see quite what happened to that, but whilst all that is going on, Felix Herziger is just getting about his business. And Marco Zanassi, I think, has put himself ahead of Hendrik Viol.
Yeah, Marco Zanassi absolutely with a blistering start, and now, as you can see, Hendrik Viol has fought back, has clawed that P1 position in the class back. Lots of things going on, left, right, center, everywhere. We've got Pirelli AM drivers ahead of Pirelli drivers, and as you said, Zanassi had been at the front, but Hendrik Viol just captured that P1 back. No question, Felix Herziger leading the race overall.
And not only leading the race, doing exactly what he did yesterday, and that's trying to eke out the gap already. And it's over the last timing line, the sector line, it was 8.92 tenths that he'd got. I reckon it might be even more than that. No, 8.71. As he crossed the timing line ahead of Yasin Ferrati. Here's Hendrik Viol then, who is trying to put Quinn Vidlisbach between himself and Marco Zanassi. There is the number 92 car of Hendrik Viol. And car off there, is that what you're pointing at, Nico? Forgive me.
Yeah, there was a car that went straight as we see that Dingyon battle between Viol and Zanazzi is continuing, and for now Zanazzi is in the front. Yeah, it looked like a car had gone fairly straight through that turn one, and I would be surprised if we see a safety car fairly soon, but for now the race is still on and overtaking a possibility.
I think it was Quinn Wiedlisbach that went straight on, and I can only guess that from the timing screen that I'm looking at right now, as Dylan Medler having something of a battle there with the car of Gilles Renman. So turn one, we think it might have been Quinn Wiedlisbach that went straight on. But you're right in that Marco Zanazzi did get back by Hendrik Viol. They're trading places for that P1 in Trofeo Pirelli AM at the moment, but for Trofeo Pirelli, Felix Herziger, Yassin Ferrati, Dylan Medler. For the AM drivers, as the safety car is called for, it's Marco Zanazzi, Hendrik Viol, and David Gosner is P3. And what car is that? Is it the Quinn Wiedlisbach car? Wow, that's in the gravel, and that's obviously made contact with the barriers, Nico. So Quinn Wiedlisbach is actually having a weekend to forget, I would say, here.
Very far ahead in the championship, but let's have a look here at this start.
So as the cars all got going then, and one or two cars out of shape, which is why the start is under investigation. See it from a different camera angle right now. I remind you that in the live race, the safety car is being called for. Marco Zanazzi then with an absolutely brilliant start right at the start, gets himself right behind Hendrik Viol, and then the chase is on for the Trofeo Pirelli AM. Both Felix Herziger and Yassin Ferrati went so wide at turn number one, they were very nearly in Mannheim. And here we can see it from another angle. Look at this. I mean, now, in fairness, Yassin Ferrati had no choice in that. He kind of had to do that. But I think it's fair to say that race control take a more lenient view of track limits, don't they, on the opening lap of the race, particularly through turn one, Nico?
Yeah, for sure. But you can't overdo it. Otherwise, if you deem to have gained an advantage, they will still have a look at that. But yeah, definitely more lenient around there. And there is a great onboard shot from that next sequence of turns, and there is Quinn Wiedlisbach, who I don't think there was a touch.
He was on his own, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And Hendrik Viol was right behind it, and I reckon that wrong-footed Hendrik Viol, and that allowed Marco Zanazzi to get to the inside, Nico.
Yeah, I think Hendrik Viol sensibly lifted a little bit, not to collect, and Marco Zanazzi thought that, oh, well, that's very fair of you, but I'll take it.
He didn't need that invitation twice, did he? Ah, well, there we have it then. And there is the very tall Quinn Wiedlisbach, regrettably having to walk away from his car, his race, finishing the same way as it did in race one in terms of a non-classification, which is a super shame for Quinn Wiedlisbach, a very, very lovely young man and clearly very talented, but the rub of the green has not gone his way this weekend, it's fair to say. Now, for Yassin Ferrati, he will feel that this is potentially another opportunity for him because, of course, the race gets effectively neutralised, and he will be hoping to try and take the race to Felix Herziger. The advantage that Felix has, of course, is that they will be starting in single file, Nico, when they do go back to racing, which I suspect is not going to be very long from now. With just the Quinn Wiedlisbach car to recover, although there were a couple others off at the hairpin. Maybe it was only one. I think that might have been Hanno Laskowski, but perhaps that was already into a position of safety, and therefore it's not going to impact or affect when we go back to racing right now.
Yeah, I would agree. I hope that it's the lap that they start now will be the last behind the safety car. Another driver who was caught out at the beginning is Michael Verhagen, who dropped way down the order, had a great qualifying, led it for most of the time. Now he's down in P8 in class, and that's P16 overall. He will look to recover once we get back to green flag conditions,
which we hope will be at the conclusion of this lap. You can see what the drivers are doing, are weaving from side to side, trying to maintain some form of temperature into the tyres and brakes and such like. There's Hendrik Viol, and there is Hendrik's wife, Claudia, watching on in the Scuderia Prague garage. So the top three in each of the categories, Felix Herziger, Yassin Ferrati, Gilles Renmans, they are the top three as we look at Yassin Ferrati. Top three for our AM drivers are Marco Zanazzi, Hendrik Viol and David Gosner. Herbert Geiss right behind him. Herbert Geiss on the podium yesterday, and then Andrew Morrow, who had a DNF yesterday, is running in P5 in Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli M. Big shout out to the Morrow family, with whom we shared some time last night, and very enjoyable it was as well. So Yassin Ferrati weaving from side to side.
Still no indication of the safety car coming in, and I'd rather think if they had cleared everything, we might have had it by now. It's still a possibility, but it's running late for the safety car to come in at the conclusion of this lap, so it might be another one.
Yes, and of course the clock continues to tick down while the safety car is controlling the race. And you're right, we're not far away from reaching that point, that cut-off point where it's the last possible opportunity for race control to say safety car in this lap. I reckon we've passed it now. And therefore we will go for another lap behind the safety car, because we're in the final sequence of turns now before the Südkurve, which are the final turns. So safety car, no chance of that coming in on this lap. So we're going to be under 20 minutes of race duration plus one lap by the time the safety car does come in. And we ride on board with Felix Herziger, who curiously has turned the microphone off on his onboard camera. I don't know if you noticed that, but it's really rather silent, and that's the reason why. So, cars all going by through turn one, where the Quinn Wiedlisbach car is still being recovered. We can see the machinery there that is still there, recovering that Quinn Wiedlisbach car, which surprises me. It didn't look to be that big a hit, Nico, or perhaps I'm being unfair.
No, I don't think so. I mean, maybe they're also looking at the integrity of the barriers, which obviously at that point is very key, but there you can see that the recovery vehicle is moving away from there, so I hope that will be a positive indication that safety car in this lap is the next incoming message from race control before too long.
Well, as soon as we get it, we will inform you. And indeed, just as Nico promised it, it comes up on our screen and now on your screen as well. The safety car will come in at the conclusion of this lap. So it will be under 20 minutes of racing left. And it will be. Now, Felix Herziger, he had to do a couple of safety car starts yesterday, and he really stacked the whole lot up. Let's see if he adopts the same modus operandi today, because Yassin Ferrati, one would think, would be cognizant of when he's going to, that was a word and a half, wasn't it? He's going to know when he's going to go, surely, and he's going to be able to anticipate it this time. Let's see. Each and every driver, of course, will be hoping for the opportunity to make good on the safety car restart. The only difference, of course, is they do it in single file behind the race leader. Hendrik Viol will be very keen to unseat Marco Zanassi from the lead of Pirelli Am once again. Those two having swapped places a couple of times in the course of the start of this race. So safety car speeds up now and will make haste its escape to the pit lane. And once again, Felix Herziger, he's almost in anti-stall mode, isn't he? He's really backing them up, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. He's really, really slowing everybody down.
And he could sell ice creams, couldn't he? He is deliberately stacking them up. He's gone for it now. How did Yassin Ferrati anticipate that? I would suggest not very well on this occasion. So Felix Herziger, he went earlier than last time.
Yeah, he did. I think Yassin Ferrati did a decent job, but obviously as the leader, you're always advantaged. I think Hendrik Viol did a fairly good job in terms of staying with Marco Zanassi, but in front of Zanassi, there's a huge gap, as you can see in the background.
Yes, that's Henri Acid is the last car, isn't it, in the Pirelli runners before we get to the Pirelli Am drivers, and there they are with Marco Zanassi leading Hendrik Viol. It's Max Mugelli ahead of David Gosner. And right now, Gilles Redmond's taking a look at the car of Yassin Ferrati. So here's Herbert Geiss then, just taking a look at the inside of David Gosner. He wasn't able to do anything about it, but he will be worrying David Gosner, that's for sure. Onto the Parabolica right now. Dylan Medler sets the fastest lap, and there are a number of drivers that mean business. going into the hairpin. Dylan Medler on the outside, the number 34 car of Enzo Trulli on the inside. That was a good overtake.
Yeah, textbook, absolutely. There is Hendrik Viol chasing Marco Zanazzi. Behind them is Max Mugello, a Pirelli driver, and then follow David Gosner, Herbert Guys, and Andrew Murray, the next three, who will be vying for that final podium spot or potentially even more, depending on what happens with this couple.
So Enzo Trulli ahead of Vincenzo Scarpetta, and Dylan Medler finds himself in P4 now, and next in his target sights will be Gilles Renmans. So here's Hendrik Viol staying with Marco Sanassi in the fight for P1 in our Pirelli AM drivers. And there we cross back to the Scuderia Prague garage once again to see the interested parties keeping an eye on what the driver of the number 92 car is able to do. Felix Herziger is able to confirm his position in P1, and Yacine Ferrati is some 7.5 tenths behind. Then it's Gilles Renmans, then Enzo Trulli, ahead of Vincenzo Scarpetta and Dylan Medler and Henri Acide, and then it is Marco Sanazzi and this driver, Hendrik Viol, who are P1 and P2 in the AM drivers. Now, for them, they've got, this car number 9 has got a drive-through penalty, and that's Danilo Del Favaro for an incorrect starting alignment, and so has car number 33. And that car, of course, is the car of Michael Verhagen, who you said has had a torrid time of it. And car number 90 with that as well, Vincenzo Scarpetta. So that is going to elevate Dylan Medler. So we're seeing all those in our message batch, and one by one they appear on your screen as well. So 3 cars with drive-through penalties for incorrect starting alignment. What that means is the rule on the rolling start, Nico, is that every driver has to have at least 2 wheels that run through their grid boxes. And if they don't do that, then they run the risk of a penalty. And quite clearly, race control feel that 3 drivers did not start the way they should have done.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just to keep the lines in order and not everybody being left, right, and all over the place on the start. And that is something that if you run behind another car who is not doing that, you're very much tempted to do the same mistake, because that is what your reference point is.
Yeah, you're not looking down at the tarmac necessarily.
Exactly, which is difficult in the how low the drivers sit in the cockpit anyway. So it's effectively a little bit of a error that's instigated by the one at the very front.
Yeah. Follow the leader. Sometimes that doesn't pay dividends for you. Right, there is car number 77, the car that's driven by Gilles Renmans. And already Danilo Del Favaro and Michael Verhagen have dived into the pit lane to take their drive-through penalties. You'll see them dropping down the order on the graphics on the left-hand side of your screen. And Vincenzo Scarpetta doing exactly the same as well. And so that does nothing for the order of the top 3 in each of the categories. It remains Herziger, Ferrati and Trulli. Trulli getting ahead of Gilles Renmans. I'm not sure we saw that overtake live, did we? So Enzo Trulli now in a podium place, having got by Gilles Renmans. So Enzo Trulli obviously really finding it this afternoon, Nico.
Yeah, the one bad news that I have for
yes.
Enzo Trulli and his fans is that
I'd be quiet if I were you.
he's already got 3 track limit excursions. That means 1 more over the remaining 14 minutes would mean he would pick up a 5-second penalty. So he is among the top runners at most danger at this stage. So he really has to keep it clean and tidy for the rest of the race.
Your colleague alongside you may give you a slap for that. I would, you know, it's perilous. It's a perilous position with 13 3/4 minutes plus 1 lap remaining. Keep it within the white lines, Enzo, please.
But the advantage that he has is that he's pulled away from Renman, so he's not under immediate danger.
No.
So he can really focus on nailing every apex and especially the exit of the turns. And I'm sure that's what he will be told, and that's what he will be doing.
I think the problem might come when he gets close enough to Yacine Ferrati and there begins a fight. But we'll worry about that if we get to it. In the meantime, Marco Zanassi is continuing to lead Hendrik Viol. And David Gosner has not been overtaken by Herbert Guys for the moment. Could this be an opportunity for Herbert Guys to maintain his podium placing, or is he going to be usurped by David Gosner? we will see. What have we got? 13 minutes plus 1 lap. Yassin Ferrari has not allowed Felix Herziger to get away. So on board, is that Dylan Medler, Nico, or was that was Gilles Renman, was it not? And that's why, I mean, Enzo didn't really have to work too hard at that overtake, did he?
Yeah, no, you're right. That was definitely the overtake that we didn't see. And thanks, guys, for finding that and making sure that we all got to see it. And yeah, Enzo truly picks up a P3, but he also picks up a 4th track limit warning. And that, unfortunately, will undo that overtake. 5-second penalty, and that will drop him provisionally all the way down to position 8 or 9 overall. But it's still a long distance, and now he has to focus on just being as quick as possible to hopefully undo as much of that penalty as possible. Now it is officially announced on our timing screen, 5-second penalties.
It's well communicated in the driver's briefing in terms of track limits are ruled with a rod of iron. 3 times, 4th time, you're getting a penalty. And actually, the penalty escalates, Nico, if they continue to do that.
Yeah, you effectively get 3 freebies almost, then you get a penalty, another 3 freebies, and then it gets to 10 seconds, later 25 seconds. At some point, someone might throw a flag at you.
Yes, we haven't seen that, and we hope that that won't happen. But, right, that changes the face of the podium places then for our Trofeo Pirelli drivers. And they're inside the garage of Enzo Trulli, which is Radici Automobili Sanassi Racing. I'm really impressed here, Nico, with Yassin Ferrari. Felix Herziger has not been able to get away from him. It's still under 8 tenths between P1 and P2. Now, to be fair, Felix Herziger is not renowned for making errors. And Yassin Ferrari is also on the cusp, Nico, of falling foul of the race direction team, because he's got 2 track limits excursions. Now he can afford to take 3, can he not? Before he picks up a penalty.
Yeah, 3 is still within the limit. Felix Herziger, Yassin Ferrari and Gilles Renman all at 2 currently, so they can't be too ambitious, but 2 is still, you still have a small margin, but it's a small one.
And the thing is, what you're doing is you're running in the final 10 minutes plus 1 lap of the race. To be fair, none of these drivers have used much of the slick tyres in qualifying. In fact, 0. Therefore, they've got as much tyre longevity as you could possibly have in a Pirelli slick tyre. So you would think the tyre deg is going to be much, much less than in an ordinary race, perhaps.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. But when you're battling with another driver who has got the same situation, you might still be pushed over the limit every now and then. But obviously, it's one thing that the driver coaches and the team managers will tell their drivers, you really have to be aggressive, you really have to be quick, but you always have to be careful at the same time. 9.5 minutes plus a lap remaining.
There, Yassin Ferrari continuing to chase Felix Herziger. The gap is 7 tenths between P1 and P2. Then on track, it's Enzo Trulli that's P3. However, Gilles Renman would occupy that P3 position at the moment. Should the track limits continue to be within the number allotted for the top drivers. It's Enzo Trulli that has fallen foul of the track limits and picked up a penalty. Marco Zanassi having broken away now from Hendrik Fiolnico. The margin between P1 and P2 in the Trofeo Pirelli Am race is 1.754. David Gostner has got a comfortable margin over Herbert Geiss. So it's all as we were then in the Trofeo Pirelli Am race. At the same time, there is Marco Zanassi, who's not far away from the P6 driver in Pirelli's, which is Henri Acide, who this weekend, and from here on in, one assumes, has been promoted from Pirelli Am to Pirelli drivers by dint of his racing prowess, I would say. So Herziger, Ferrari, truly on track. P1, 2 and 3 for the Pirelli drivers. For the Am drivers, it's Zanassi, Viol and Gostner. And I have to say, absolutely thrilled. Alongside us is former Ferrari Challenge champion and star Axel Sardingen, who of course is German and isn't racing all that often now, which is a great shame, and he joins us in our commentary studio. Axel, it's always a delight to see you, though we would rather see you on the track, friend. So we stay as we are then, with just under 7.5 minutes remaining plus 1 lap, and we ride on board with Yassin Ferrati. I'm really impressed with this because the gap has been kind of 5/10, 6/10 for the entire duration, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. And remember, Felix Herzig is on a 3-race win bound, so he has all the confidence in the world for Yassin Ferrati to keep up with him. I mean, obviously keeping up with him is one thing. He wants to get by, but I think he's also trying to focus his attention on the end of the race when he will have a go, possibly.
At the risk of getting a slap from our production assistant alongside us here, Enzo's now up to 5 track limits excursions. I just thought I'd mention it. It's also a member of the Enzo Trulli fan club as Michael Verhagen makes his way past car number 27 very, very well indeed, which is Rafael Duran. And now that once the door was opened, going through was Danilo Del Fabro as well. And there's now a time penalty for Herbert Guys, is that, Nico?
Yeah, he picked up his 4th penalty, and that drops him from P4 quite a few positions down. So David Gostner can breathe a sigh of relief in terms of P3.
Yeah.
Now, there is good news also for Enzo Trulli, because he's extended his lead over Gilles Redmond to 3.4 seconds.
Now,
so
if he could...
He's only 1 seconds away from offsetting the penalty he gained earlier. The only caveat is he's not allowed to pick up 2 more. So it's this fine balancing up of risk and reward and aggression and patience.
We ride on board with Herbert Guys, who has picked up a time penalty of 5 seconds for track limits, which is a great shame because Herbert Guys has had a run of podiums. This would have been his 3rd if he'd taken a podium today, and I was saying to his driver coach earlier on today, because Herbert has been a fantastic driver to watch, and Harald Procik, who looks after him, I said, come on, the win this season isn't far away. And in typical Harald Procik style, he wouldn't commit to anything. But Herbert Guys is a great driver, great character, as indeed all the Ferrari Challenge competitors are, as Felix Herzig now begins to open up a bit more of a margin, if I will, of very nearly a second between himself and Yassin Ferrati. Right on board with the car of Felix Herzig, the Reparto Corsa Ram Ineco team that engineer that car and have done a good job. What have we got? 5 minutes plus 1 lap of Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo, Pirelli and Pirelli Am Racing.
As you say, Felix has opened the gap a little bit, but it's come down again.
Because the back end of the car, you can see the Felix Herzig car was sideways coming through the hairpin there. That allowed Yassin Ferrati to get a bit closer. So maybe this isn't all done and dusted yet, Nico.
As we know in the Ferrari Challenge, it never is until the race is over, and sometimes even after the finish line. I mean, we've seen races decided and flipped on the final few meters after the final turn even. So things happen in the Ferrari Challenge, and likewise, Henrik Viol and Marcus Zanazzi, the gap is also down to less than a second. So even in the Ams as well, it's not all over yet.
Allow the plot to thicken.
We allow.
And so it will. With 4 minutes plus 1 lap, Felix has really just got to hold on to this. Neither of them can afford to run foul, though, of the track limits in their final desperate attempts to hold on to their respective places, or indeed gain 1 place, as will be the case with Yassin Ferrati, of course.
Yeah, likewise for David Gostner and Andrew Murrow, both sit at 3 track limit warnings, and they are both still in a reasonably good position in class. In David Gostner's case, actually a podium. Now, he could theoretically probably afford it, but he wouldn't want to because it would leave him vulnerable.
Right. So it's the final dash towards the checkered flag for our drivers then. And Yassin Ferrati, where can he find? I mean, the pace maintenance between the two of them has been impeccable. And here's Marco Zanazzi. He's going to be under threat now from the number 92 car of Hendrik Viol, the really rather distinctive purple and yellow colours of Hendrik Viol there. Running up towards Marco Zanassi. Now both of them are excellent drivers under braking. No question about it. Viol is able to get much closer, but what that does, that compromises your momentum out of the hairpin, and that's where Marco, being just a little bit smoother, was able to get away, Nico.
Yeah, indeed. We've got 2.5 minutes. Probably by the time the leaders have crossed the timing line, it's got to be 2 more laps potentially. We'll see. Could be 2 or 3, depending on when exactly they cross the line. Something we will keep an eye on. And I think for Hendrik Viol, it's got to be, let it be another lap. I really need that extra time. And I think he will get his wish.
Okay, well, you're across the timings. I'm across pretty much nothing, really, other than saying what I can see, which is Hendrik Viol doing everything he can, but Marco Zanassi, I think, is managing this really well, Nico.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he had a terrible day yesterday, but he's recovered the form that he had in Misano, and he would so dearly love to get back on his winning ways and potentially regain championship P1, or at least narrow the gap. Gilles Renman has picked up a 3rd track limit warning, so he's now on the edge, and that means 1 more, and Enzo Trulli and he would have the same penalty mid-second, so the drop really thickens as the gap between them is up to 4 seconds, so lots of ways this could still go.
This is extraordinary, isn't it? When I said about the thickening of the plot, I didn't think there would be quite so many connotations, but there are. Hendrik Viol then closing in once again under Marco Zanassi on braking, but Zanassi is just super smooth and manages to get the car around the hairpin with no problems at all. In the meantime, you can see Michael Verhagen, Nico, is one of the most entertaining drivers from Ferrari Warsaw that you are ever likely to see. If ever a driver can give it 100% plus some, it's that man. And as they all head up to the hairpin with Danilo Del Favero in the mix as well, and Danilo to the inside, he's going to get 2 in 1 and then loses the back end of the car, and I think that was the save of the day from Danilo Del Favero, Nico. That car was properly sideways.
Yeah, sometimes a little bit of a touch with another car might actually help stabilize your car. It's rare, but it might have happened there. Michael Verhagen, he's not really the benefit of the...
No.
Doesn't have the run of the green at all. Is really struggling.
I think Otto Blank has come through as well on Danilo Del Favero. My goodness. This is just extraordinary. Right at the end of this race, when Felix Herziger crosses the timing line, we will start, I think, the final lap of this race. Oh, bring it on. We could do with a few more laps. Danilo Del Favero takes to the grass, the curbs, and anything else he can in his quest to get by the car ahead of him, of Matt Rosner. And then there's Michael Verhagen, and they're all in there and having a brilliant race. And this is fantastic. Now, in the red and yellow car, it is Michael Verhagen. And then, absolutely side by side. This is not somewhere where ordinarily you would see an overtake. However, I mean, fair play to all 3 of them. They are giving each other racing room, and it is compelling stuff.
Absolutely, and it's so easy to make a mistake when you're so many cars battling, but Michael Verhagen now, I think, has the bit between his teeth. He's now on the inside. If he can hold it together, if he can scrub up the speed, then potentially he's done it. But now here we go back to the front of the amps, and there Hendrik Viol is now markedly closer to Marco Zanassi as they have just over a lap remaining.
Yes, what Hendrik needs is a small error from Marco Zanassi. Marco Zanassi is not renowned for making a mistake, it has to be said. On track, it's Herziger, Ferrati, and then it's Trulli. And on track for the AM drivers, it's Zanassi, it's Viol, and then it is David Gosner. And then there is such a battle going on between Matt Rosner, Michael Verhagen, and Danilo Del Favero. In fact, I think Danilo has dropped to the back of that pack now, if the timing screen is to be believed, as Hendrik Viol, it's now or never, Nico. this is the only opportunity he's going to get because he's started the final lap of this race in the AMS to get by Marco Zanassi. One of his best opportunities is going to come at the hairpin. Who's going to go inside? Who's going to go outside? Michael Verhagen. Felix Herziger leading though. Yassin Ferrati, I think, is just too far away as Hendrik Viol goes for the outside. Now he'll try and switch back and get to the inside, but he's not close enough, Nico.
But he's got more momentum. This is not over yet, but I think Marco Zanassi has just done enough. But Hendrik Viol, this is almost last attempt. He's going to try. He's going to try the inside. He is there.
Respect to both of them. Oh, where? I think the best opportunities for our driver of the number 92 car, Hendrik Viol, have gone. But great driving from both of them. Great driving from Felix Herziger as he takes another win in Trofeo Pirelli. And it's a Yassin Ferrati that takes P2. Now, Enzo Trulli has done enough to maintain his podium, hasn't he?
By 0.3 of a second, he's just on the final lap. On the final lap, he just made enough. It was the beginning of the lap. They were dead heat.
Marco Zanassi wins in the AMS ahead of Hendrik Viol. And then it will be David Gosner that takes a podium. What an extraordinary race, Nico.
Wow, I mean, Enzo Trulli among them, and we can have a camera into the garage of the Trulli family and clan and supporters, and another podium for Enzo Trulli, the place where his father was so successful in German Formula 3 and Formula 1, took multiple podiums here, and it's a family tradition. Hockenheim on the podium, and well, Felix Herziger is making a tradition of being at the top of the podium, period, wherever he races.
Absolutely brilliant racing we've seen so far today.
Yeah, and there you could see the two protagonists in the AMS.
That was, I mean, there was barely the width of a cigarette paper.
Absolutely.
Between those two drivers.
Yeah,
that was fantastic.
And they were running side by side there and giving themselves credit. I'm sure that will continue on the podium. And there is celebration in pit lane.
Brilliant. And Gianmarco Marzioletti and Jarno Trulli then embrace another fantastic podium. We spent some time with them yesterday. I mean, thankfully, both Enzo and Jarno are certainly more communicative in English language than poor Gianmarco is. And the Marzioletti family are lovely. Absolutely lovely. Felix Herziger, Nico, is one heck of a driver.
Yeah, Yassin Ferrati gave him everything that he could handle, but he did, and there are the results.
Felix Herziger taking P1 from Yassin Ferrati and Enzo Trulli. Then it was Gilles Redmond, Dylan Medler, Henri Acide, Max Mugelli and Vincenzo Scarpetti ahead of Quinn Wiedlisbach, who of course ended up in the barriers, which was very sad to see. We'll bring you the AMS result as well, where it was Marco Zanassi ahead of Hendrik Viol and David Gosner. Then it was Herbert Guys, David Akabadze, Andrew Morrow, P6, Michael Verhagen and Matt Rossner. Then Danilo Del Favaro, Otto Blank, Rafael Duran, Armin Arifpour and DNF for Hanno Laskowski. Cars Interpark Ferme then, each and every one of the drivers deserving immense congratulations because they did a fantastic job, Nico, and that was a true example of just how good the racing in the Ferrari Challenge is.
Absolutely, and shout out also to David Gosner, who had a boring race compared to everybody else that we've been talking about, but he finishes in P3. Felix Herziger, fourth race win in a row after a atrocious start to the season, I think is fair to say, in Monza. He's completely turned it around.
It was pants, wasn't it, at the beginning of the year, I think it's fair to say, and I think he would be the first to admit that, but my goodness, talk about a turnaround, Nico.
Yeah, and there is David Gosner and...
Massimo Pepe then from the MP Racing team offering his congratulations to David Gosner as well.
Absolutely, and there is, there you can see Hendrik Viol, Marco Zanassi, great respect to each other. I mean, everybody there in Parc Fermé. There is David Gosner with the Gosner clan. They actually have to prepare for their own race in just a couple of minutes, but
yes,
they take the time out of their preparation to support David. Well deserved.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. So Corinna to the left, Thomas Father to the right-hand side. And, well, we'll be hearing from our respective race winners in moments from now, I feel sure. Ludovica will be as across it as we were in terms of what a phenomenal race that was. And we'll be asking some probing questions, I do not doubt, of our two race winners in just a few moments from now. Well, we had everything thrown at us, from penalties to overtakes on track. And let's hear right now from Felix Herziger, P1 again.
Felix, congratulations. It was a perfect weekend for you. 2 pole position and 2 win in a row. How do you feel?
Amazing. I think it couldn't have been better after what happened in Monza. Now we had success in Misano, now in Hockenheim. Can't wait for what's going to happen in Brno. I have an amazing team, the best engineers, the best team boss, the best sponsors, the best partners. Yeah, can only go up from here, and very excited. I'm very thankful.
Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you. Merci.
Well done, Felix. Nice to hear from you. Quite know how it can only go up from here. Where are you going to take it then?
Arriva.
Can't do any better than winning, can you, Nico?
Well, 16 in a row.
Yeah, well, yes.
50, he can't only do 15 in a row this season.
Of course.
It would be nice. He would take it. Marco Zanazzi, he had his low yesterday. He's back to the heights.
Very much so. And it was really nice to see the immense respect between both Marco Zanazzi and Hendrik Viol. Lovely to see.
And I doubt we will hear it in his own words.
Wow, Marco, congratulations. It was a tough race for you. You have control until the end, managing in the best way your car and your strategy after a good start.
Yes, I mean, I have to say thank you very much for my team, because yesterday we had a collision with Verhagen. It was not his fault as well, but, you know, we crashed the car. So tonight they fixed the car and they did really a good job, amazing job. At the end we struggled a little bit the front because, I mean, anyway, we had the setup half like raining and half dry. But yeah, I mean, really, it was tough to having Hendrik as usual behind. So it was like, you know, tough. But anyway, everything is good when, you know, we...
Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you very much to you. Ciao, ciao.
Well done, Marco. Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli Am Race 2 about to take to the track. The threat of rain was never far away, and it certainly impacted qualifying. Would it impact the race? Of course, the mix of Pirelli drivers with the red strip across the top of the windscreen and the Am drivers with the white strip across the top of the windscreen. Felix Herziger put it on pole position for the Pirelli drivers. And whilst many drivers ran wide going through turn number 1, Yasin Ferrati, his best opportunity to try and wrestle away that P1 from Felix Herziger, had probably gone on the opening lap. Marco Zanazzi initially getting by Hendrik Viol. Hendrik Viol, though, trying to come back as the battle for the lead in Pirelli Ams continued. And drama for Quinn Wiedlisbach, who made contact with the barriers. That would bring out the safety car. And Enzo Trulli getting by Dylan Medler, proving what a star he is, and no question about that. And there you can see other cars. Gilles Rembrandt, who advantaged Enzo Trulli still further, and Armin Arifpour through the hairpin. There was lots going on. Michael Verhagen, perhaps one of the most entertaining drivers out there on track, and unorthodox in terms of where he would place the car for an overtake, but 9 times out of 10 he seems to make it work, and that was perhaps one of the biggest saves from Danilo Del Favero as the car went sideways, but he got it pointing in the right direction once again. It was a remarkable Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli Am races. Felix Herziger would make it 2 out of 2 this weekend and take victory at Hockenheim. And for the Am drivers, it would be Marco Zanazzi that would be victorious for the Motor Service Pinetti Motorsport team ahead of Hendrik Viol. Congratulations all round for our race winners. Let's take a look at the statistics of that race then. The statistics don't really tell the whole story, but I think really we should have another little row there which says entertainer of the day as well, because Michael Verhagen would be getting my vote in terms of what he did out on track and trying to make things count. It's where we go next. It's the podium, and Michele Mambelli will be bringing the drivers out. Of course, 2 podiums to come, one for the Pirelli drivers, one for the AM drivers.
First podium, Pirelli main class. Third on the podium, Enzo Trulli. Second driver on the podium, Jason Ferrati. And the winner is Felix Irsiger. On the podium, team manager Ineco Reparto Corse Ram.
Giorgio on the podium from the team.
Claps for the winners. The trophy are presented by Davide Rigon.
Ferrari factory driver Davide Rigon then will be in charge of trophy presentation duties. First of all to Enzo Trulli. Well done, Enzo. Radici Automobili Sanassi Racing Team driver. And up next is Yasin Ferrati, who takes another P2 trophy, and the 8-foot-tall Felix Herziger takes P1. And of course, the Copa Teams trophy will go to the Ineco Reparto Corse Ram team, and Giorgio Sanaggiotto receives that trophy on behalf of the whole team. And there they all are. Lucio Vagani from Pirelli Motorsport makes the Pirelli trophy presentation to Felix as well. Everyone together for the photographs.
Davide and Lucio. Okay, drivers, lift your trophy. Okay, lift.
Up your trophies, please, drivers. Thank you. The focus of the world's media is upon you right now.
Amazing. Lucio and Davide.
So everyone escapes, and who's going to win the champagne race? It's going to be Herziger.
Over without champagne.
Top 3 cars then that have provided the wheels to take our drivers to those podium positions. We do have a Pirelli AM podium to come as well. Meantime, in the Trofeo Pirelli Drivers' Championship, it's Felix Herziger P1, Yasin Ferrati P2, Gilles Redmond P3, then it's Vincenzo Scarpetta, Quinn Wiedlisbach, Dylan Medler, Björn Grossman, and then Max Mugelli. Enzo Trulli, look, he's already got points on the board ahead of Luigi Coluccio and Henri Acide. Here comes the AM podium then.
Third driver on the podium. Welcome back, David Gostner.
Good to see David Gostner back on the podium. He takes P3.
Second on the podium, Hendrik Viol.
Hendrik Viol then, bridesmaid today, was the race winner yesterday. There's Claudia looking on, and here comes Marco Zanassi. He is the race winner today, and team manager Pinetti Motorsport will also be there, of course, to collect the Copa Team Award. The 140 BPM version of the anthem plays out for Marco Zanassi.
Ferrari factory driver for the third driver on the podium, David
Davide
Gostner.
Rigon then makes the trophy presentation to David Gostner.
Davide Rigon for the
Up next it will be Hendrik Viol in receipt of his trophy. And Marco Zanassi then.
And for the winner, Marco Zanassi.
Well done to all the drivers.
And the trophy for Motor Service Pinetti Motorsport for you.
And of course the Cobra Team Award
Lucio
as well.
Vergani.
Here comes Lucio Vergani from Pirelli Motorsport once
Trophy
again.
For the winner, Marco Zanassi.
And Marco Zanassi receives yet another Pirelli trophy. The old mantelpiece at home will be bowing under the pressure of the trophies.
And all our guests on the podium, thank you. Lift your trophy. David, lift your trophy, okay.
Up the trophies, gentlemen, if you will, please. Once again, all the photographs are taken.
Lucio,
Davide, David Gosner, quickest with the champagne by some measure. He was on it. So the top three cars then for CDP MP Racing is David Gosner. For Scuderia Prague, they've had a good weekend with Hendrik Viol. And of course for Motor Service Panetti Motorsport, Marco Zanassi. Let's take a look at the Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli AM Drivers' Championship table and order right now. Hendrik Viol then with a slender margin of 5 points over Marco Zanassi, then Michael Verhagen, then Herbert Geiss, Andrew Morrow, Hanno Laskowski, Francesco Galli, and Henri Assid, of course, who's now moved to Trofeo Pirelli. Then it's David Gosner, Matt Rosner, Otto Blank, Danilo Dal Favro, Rafael Duran, NM, and David Akabadze. Ahead of Gianmarco Marzialetti, James Owen, Armin Arifpour, Nobuhiro Amada, Martin Havas, Andreas Berg Sorensen. Hurry back, Andreas, we miss you, friend. And Faisal Shayer. So that's the way our Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli AM Race 2 has gone in fine fettle, I have to say, with some brilliant racing to come from those drivers. And the weather that has threatened much during the course of the day has only unleashed the rain during qualifying. Again, it was another dry race, which was thoroughly enjoyable and full of action and spectacle for everyone, and hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. From our Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli AM drivers and racing, bye-bye for now. Hello everyone and welcome back to Hockenheim. This is the scene of the third round of the Ferrari Challenge Europe for 2025. And a second day of racing action and the final race to come for our Copa Shell drivers that will be taking to the track. All dozen of them or thereabouts who have a 30-minute plus one lap race to be contested here at Hockenheim. 4.5 kilometers, and this is the third round of our 2025 season. From here, I've done the calculation. It's exactly 701 kilometers to Brno. Then it's Valencia and Barcelona, then Spa-Francorchamps and Mugello is round 8, and the Finale Mondiale event at the beginning, at the end of October. And what an event that will be. A lot of racing to be done before then, though. The threat of the clouds and the rain has never been far away this afternoon. Qualifying was in wet conditions. However, all the races thus far today have been dry, and we just hope that 28 degrees track temperature, air temperature of 19 degrees stays that way, and it stays dry on track as well, because it's dry at the moment. And it'll be Ernst Kirchmayr going from P1, NM going from P2 on the grid. Then the two Gosners of Thomas and Manuela. They share P3 and P4, or the second row of the grid, ahead of Cristiano Marchel, then Skrimpias and von Skeltermar, John Dillon, Oscar Rinčević, Michael Martin, Corinna Gosner, Germano Salernitano. And there you can see Thomas Gosner standing by, ready for the race to come. Going from P3 for CDP MP Racing. That's the Massimo Pepe Racing Organisation, MP Racing. And there the car of NM going from P2 on the grid for Rosso Corsa. And it's Ernst Kirchmayr who has, for Kessel Racing, earned pole position. And he's driven in Ferrari Challenge Europe, in Asia, in Japan, and also in North America as well. He's a well-travelled racer, is Ernst. And he knows how to propel a car around here, and actually being coached this weekend by Giacomo Altoe, Trofeo Pirelli champion from last year in the Ferrari Challenge. So he certainly knows how to pedal a car as well. And that is the Ernst Kirchmayr car. And there is Giacomo Altoe sitting right behind, on the back quarter, if you like, of this wonderful 296 Challenge car, featuring that 3-litre twin-turbo V6 engine propelling these cars and producing some 700 HP. A phenomenal racing car which the drivers absolutely love. So the drivers are our Copa Shell drivers. We've already had races for our Copa Shell AM drivers and our Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli AM racers. So the cars and drivers, of course, contested their first race of the weekend yesterday here at Hockenheim. 16 turns awaited them, and they'd done all their free practice and qualifying sessions, and then they were let loose for their race one at Hockenheim in the Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell. Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell drivers ready to take to the track here at Hockenheim. Manuela Gosner then getting the better of Ernst Kirchmayr in the drag race to turn number 1. Well, as she turned in, Ernst Kirchmayr made contact and went round, and that would really end Ernst Kirchmayr's race. His driver coach, Giacomo Altoe, looking on in dismay, and Zoe Skrimpias, another driver, finding that the car pointing in the right direction is not the quickest way around the track, and NM was another one with a huge slide here. Manuela Gosner doing very well to avoid that. And in the lead of the race then, the 193 car, Manuela Gosner, and NM fighting back with members of the same Gosner family, and this is Corinna Gosner, who found herself pointing in the wrong direction, and David Gosner, another member of the family, looked on, and there was car going around again, as we saw drivers avoiding action. Now von Skeltermar and Zoe Skrimpias had a small coming together here. That would result in a post-race penalty for Zoe Skrimpias for being really rather too aggressive. Oscar Rinjovic did everything he could to try and take the win away, but he couldn't, as Manuela Gosner was victorious at Hockenheim in the Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell Race 1, winning ahead of Oscar Rinjovic and Thomas Gosner. So that was the race yesterday. This is the Richard Mills safety car that will be leading the cars away then on their formation lap. It's always a rolling start in the Ferrari Challenge, which basically means they have a lap behind the safety car in side-by-side grid formation. And then it is the responsibility of Ernst Kirchmeier and NM to control the pace of the rolling start as they head towards the lighting gantry. What's critical is that every driver passes through their grid box on the rolling start, so that they can affect a correct aligned start. And if they don't do that, penalties can be awarded. We've seen it in a number of races. So you can see the grid boxes down there right now. Every driver has to have at least 2 of their wheels that cross through their respective grid boxes on the start of the race. If they don't do that, they risk a penalty. So the Ferrari Challenge then races here in Europe, but also in the UK, in Australasia and Japan, where we've been racing today at the Autopolis circuit. And also racing in North America as well. And yeah, I'm very, very lucky in that my voice and presence has graced a number of the regions of the Ferrari Challenge as we get the 3-minute board for the next race in our European season here of the Ferrari Challenge. So the 3-minute board comes down, and there you can see the dozen cars or so that will be taking to this circuit for the final race of our Ferrari Challenge Europe weekend here at Hockenheim in Germany before we head off to the Czech Republic and the Brno circuit for the next round. And it's once again Ernst Kirchmeier going from pole position. Goodly number of German motor racing fans that have come to Hockenheim to enjoy the Ferrari Challenge this weekend. Of course, it's always something special when the prancing horse comes to town, and that has been the case this weekend. So the official timekeeper is Richard Mille, and that is the official safety car ready to lead the cars away on their formation lap. And some of the wildlife flying overhead, and at the moment the weather continues to remain dry. We hope that stays the case. So as I mentioned then, so many regions racing in the Ferrari Challenge, including North America. That's where they were last weekend then, racing around that Formula One circuit in Miami in the Ferrari Challenge North America. We're in Europe for Ferrari Challenge Europe then, 4.574 kilometers, 16 turns, and a very testing circuit which is made up of technical parts and full chat flat parts also. The sequence between turns 4 and 6 I absolutely love. The parabolica into the hairpin. Cars are released on their formation lap then, and we will bring you the grid in full from back to front as our final race of round 3 of the Ferrari Challenge Europe is about to get underway. 30 minutes plus 1 lap, the race duration then, as every driver and every car will want to hang their hat on the end of the weekend being high for them with honours to be had. Here comes the grid. It is Germano Salernitano and Corinna Gosner going from P12 and P11. Then it's Michael Martin. Oskar Rinčević is out of position from P9, could be a danger man. So too could John Dillon and equally von Skeltermar from P8 and P7. It's Zois Grimpias and Cristiano Marchel going from P6 and P5. Manuela Gosner and Thomas Gosner then. It's an all-Gosner affair on row 2. And it's NM and Ernst Kirchmeier going from P1 on the grid. And Ernst Kirchmeier driving for Kessel Racing. And let's hear from him now because once again he is the pole sitter.
Today it was really quite tricky. Raining at Hockenheim ring and the qualifying was really tricky. And I'm very proud about the team, my driver coach Altomo, and at least myself I could deliver it at the right moment. And so we have a double pole in Hockenheim and this is very well for my books. About the racing, hopefully I will do a better job than yesterday. Yesterday I made a small mistake and so the race was more or less over. Today the goal is to do a better job than yesterday.
I'm sure you will, Ernst, and forgive me, are you sporting a new hairstyle for this weekend? Just saying, of course it's not. It just got out of the car, the crash helmet off, and even someone Ernst has got plenty of hair, unlike me, with zero, but it would make my hair stand on end if I took the crash helmet off after qualifying.
We'll see. Well, it's going to be an interesting race.
Right.
Everybody lining up. The Gosner row number 2 will be an active one, I'm sure. And you already pointed out the drivers who are arguably out of position. They will be eager to move up early and often.
I think you have a very, very fair point there. There might be 12 cars on the grid, 12 action-packed drivers, that's for sure, Nico. So hold on to your hats or any other form of loose clothing that you might have. I reckon the start could be a bit hairy-scary. Just saying, it could be.
We're about to find out. Just one more turn to do, and then they will be released.
Okay, then the Richard Mills safety car has peeled off into the pit lane. We'll throw the lighting gantry to the top of the screen for you so that you can see when the start is effected as NM tries to get a bit of a slingshot on Ernst Kirchmeier by holding back a bit, I would have suggested. And Let's Go Racing NM then does get a slingshot. Is he able to get just right in front of Ernst Kirchmeier? No, he is not. Manuela Gosner goes ahead of Thomas Gosner, Zois Grimpias all the way around the outside. Corinna Gosner and von Skeltermar are side by side. And there you can see Cristiano Marchel and Oskar Rinčević trying to get to the inside of von Skeltermar as well. And Corinna Gosner and von Skeltermar make contact. I rather feel that may have horlicked Corinna Gosner's aspirations in this race. I think she may have picked up some damage, and there might be something loose on the Thomas Gosner car at the front end of it as well, or perhaps I dreamt that. But in the meantime, Ernst Kirchmeier under threat here from NM, who goes through on the inside of the hairpin. Ernst will try and come back, and Manuela Gosner trying to split the two of them. John Dillon already trying to make progress as well, but it is NM that's leading from Ernst Kirchmeier, and then it is Manuela Gosner. We've got a yellow flag at turn 2. I rather suspect that might be for the stricken Corinna Gosner car. And NM from Kirchmeier from Gosner. Then it's Zois Grimpias who's up to P4 ahead of Thomas Gosner, Cristiano Marchel, von Skeltermar and John Dillon.
Yeah, NM, you called it correctly. Great slingshot move on the outside and actually got the overtake done into the first turn. And that it was Kirchmeier tried to come back and NM holding on. Zois Grimpias, good start. As did...
Safety car, Nico.
Well, and there is the Corinna Gosner car. You called that correctly as well.
So they will get that to a position of safety, and it's not going to be many moments. We're probably only going to get a lap or so behind the safety car, I would suggest. But inevitably, the most important thing is driver safety. And when you have a stricken car anywhere around the circuit, Nico, it will always generally provoke a safety car for the safety of not only the drivers, but of course the stricken car and the marshals as well.
Absolutely, 100%, and it's going to be a short one. Here is the start once again.
See, at this point, I think NM had got just got rolling momentum, Nico. And I think that was enough. Held back right at the start. Manuela Gosner was looking lively, and Ernst tried to back it off there. But NM, they're allowed to carry the runoff area to a point at the start of the race. I'm not sure whether liberties may have been taken there. Fair to say that Corinna Gosner and von Skeltermar having a coming together, which was probably better finishing for von Skeltermar than definitely Corinna Gosner. Unfortunately, the safety car will come in at the conclusion of this lap. As I predicted, it's not going to be a long safety car intervention. So the Richard Mills safety car, which came out just before the conclusion of lap 1, will return at the conclusion of lap 2, and we can go back to the traditional race, which Ernst Kirchmayr will feel there's potentially another opportunity for him to get on terms with NM now, but it's how well he anticipates NM's restart from the safety car.
Yeah, for sure. Thus far, no indication from race control that the start or anything after that had been untoward. We'll keep an eye on it. Generally, that comes after the safety car has come in, because only then penalties can be taken. So
fair point.
We will see. Thus far, no indication, but it's something to keep an eye on.
And keep an eye on we will. Now, there is Giacomo Altoe, who is Ernst Kirchmayr's driver coach for this weekend, Nico, who will doubtless be saying, right, you know, try and anticipate when NM is going to go for it. The safety car has gone for it now, and will turn off into the pit lane in about 4 turns' time. NM, Manuela Gosner and Ernst Kirchmayr then are the 1, 3 and 2. The rest of the pack there. There is the 109 car that you can see of Michael Martin. We're right on board with the Richard Mills safety car into the Südkurve and then into the pit lane. Right. The second time of asking, we're about to go racing. NM has gone for it. Ernst Kirchmayr tries to follow suit, so too does Manuela Gosner. Let's go back to racing then with the Ferrari Challenger Coppershell. Across the timing line they go, then no overtaking till you've crossed the safety car line. So Thomas Gosner looks to put his nose to the inside of Cristiano Marchel, but there was nothing doing as von Skeltermar is chasing down the car of Thomas Gosner, and he's weaving inside, outside. Oh, Thomas Gosner just getting a little bit of a wiggle on, and that may have played into the hands of von Skeltermar, who is able to get right alongside Thomas Gosner now, and this is the fight that is going on for P6 in the race. There's a touch between the two of them. John Dillon tries to take advantage here. So John Dillon could be the big beneficiary of this as Ernst Kirchmayr tries to come around the outside of NM. NM carries a lot of speed. Now if Kirchmayr can get to the inside as Skeltermar and Gosner continue trading places and a little bit of paint as well. As I said, the big beneficiary of this could be the car lurking behind, which is the car of John Dillon, who probably quite wisely, Nico, is just allowing them to continue their little battle.
Yeah, probably. I mean, John Dillon certainly is one that you would reckon is potentially moving up the order, but this battle, you've seen it time and time again when two drivers are just looking at each other. If you try to get involved at the same time, it can go good, but it equally can very easily go all wrong.
John Dillon will have Oscar Rinčević right behind him as well, though, and we know just how lively Oscar Rinčević is. Oscar Rinčević on the podium yesterday, if memory serves me correctly, taking P2. So he'll be hoping to advance his position from P9, which is quite lowly at the moment. So this was the battle between the two of them then, and that was where John Dillon got really close. And I don't know whether Thomas just wasn't aware of Fons being there, but it was a big save from Fons, who was out on the grass, wasn't he, for a moment?
Yeah, definitely. Fons held it together nicely, and now he has to be aware of John Dillon, who's now in the attacking, and there is Cristiano Marcial, and good move here on Sprinters. He tried it the last lap.
He rehearsed it.
Yeah, and wasn't quite there. Managed to scrub up the street just in time, and this time he didn't, and he was alongside and made the move stick. So Zoe Skrimpias going back one position. Cristiano Marcial moving up into 4th place.
Thomas Gosner is certainly left von Skeltermar behind right now. I just wonder whether the contact between the two of them might have had an impact on the performance of the cars. I'm not sure. We've got 23 minutes plus 1 lap remaining. As you can see, Thomas Gosner is almost on the back of Zoe Skrimpias now. Ernst Kirchmayr then continuing to chase down NM, but nothing doing at the moment. They're all gapped really rather irritatingly by a fair margin, which means the fights are not intensifying at the moment. I'm sure they will in just moments from now, but can I just throw a curve ball into this, and that is that the overhead, it looks like it's ever darkening. I know we've only got 22.5 minutes of this race remaining, but there are certain parts of the track where if you look at the skyline, it does look really, really dark. Now, the incident involving cars 173 and 177 in turn 2 has been noted by race control. That means they are aware of the fact, and John Dillon is very much aware of the fact that he would like to dispatch von Skeltermar and pick up that P7 place. You can see the lights being flashed there by John Dillon. And von Skeltermar, for the moment, is able to hold on to this P7 position that he has. Oh, and now, Nico, a load of smoke coming. I did wonder whether there was some damage on the von Skeltermar car, and he does exactly the right thing now and pulls that off onto the runoff area. Now, is that, I would suggest that's tyre smoke, isn't it? Perhaps that was the area of contact, wasn't it?
Yeah, that is probably something in terms of the bodywork rubbing against the tire, and it had held on for a little bit, but now it got loose, and unfortunate, and really unfortunate, as Thomas Gostner is now trying to move closer to Zoe Skrimpias. Now John Dillon obviously benefits from the misfortune of von Skeltermar, and he moves up position.
But I think he's going to be under real pressure from Oscar Rinčević, who is just 4/10 behind him, Nico. So let's see if we get them into the back end of this shot. There is Thomas Gostner in the 161 car chasing down Zoe Skrimpias. Our speed camera there, indicative of just how quick our 296 challenge cars are. Yellow flag at turns 2 and 3. That will be for the stricken von Skeltermar car. I wonder if they're able to get that to a position of safety without having to throw a full course yellow or safety car once again. That would be advantageous to us as the race action would continue. Ernst Kirchmeier is 1.2 seconds behind NM, who I have to say is doing a very good job of managing this, and now, the Skeltermar car, that, to my mind, is actually on the track, Nico, which will not be allowed to stay there unless Fons can get it going again. Safety car is called for the second time of asking in this race, and that's because of where the Skeltermar car is positioned, Nico.
Yeah, unfortunately, and that's where it let go, and there you can see the smoke coming from Fons' side, the right front. And that is exactly where the contact was with the Corinna Gostner car earlier, and he probably tried to nurse it to somewhere where it could have been parked safely, but didn't quite make it. So that car has to be recovered. The one benefit that we get from that all the gaps that you had described, they will disappear. And so once we go back racing, everybody will be bunched up again.
Yes, you're right. And that could lead to opportunities for some. We will see. So I don't think it will be a long safety car intervention once again, but it will be, I think, another opportunity for Ernst Kirchmeier and Manuela Gostner, of course. There's Andrea from the Rosso Corsa team looking on. He, of course, engineering the car that is leading the race at the moment. There's Ernst Kirchmeier running in P2, and Manuela Gostner is running P3. You can see that talking to Ernst Kirchmeier, as von Skeltermar is out of the car and he shakes his head, somewhat consoled, really. A great shame, Nico, because I'm not convinced that Fons could be anything like but disappointed after a really torrid race for him when he'd finished P5 yesterday. Unfortunately, he's not going to get the opportunity to finish the race today. And he will feel wronged over that, I feel sure. So we stay with the safety car for at least another lap, and the clock continuing to count down. As there you can see the 171 car of Cristiano Marchel running in P4. And there's John Dillon's driver coach, Benny, who is doubtlessly talking to John. The incident between the Thomas Gostner car and von Skeltermar car in turn 4 is going to be under investigation, which, if anything, following the earlier contact with Corinna Gostner, it kind of may have had something to do with making that a little bit worse.
Yeah, it was the other side, I believe. Actually, it wasn't the other side. It was more to the back of the car. But yeah, I mean, obviously the race control will have a look. There in the backdrop, you can see the recovery vehicle trying to move the von Skeltemer car away.
Look how dark the clouds are. Just saying. But we are running out of time for the rain to make a difference, perhaps.
Well, if there's one thing in the Ferrari challenge that we know is to expect the unexpected.
Yes.
Generally it happens on the track, but sometimes weather plays a part. So if we need any more drama, which we generally don't, weather might just deliver it.
Yes. So we stay on board now. I'm just hoping that at any moment... So this was the incident with Thomas Gosner. Now, this, Nico, is where Fons is... I mean, he did well to save that car on the grass there, truthfully. Safety car is going to come in at the end of this lap, incidentally.
Very good, sir.
There's John Dillon. We saw his driver coach, Benny, just a few moments ago. And there's Oskar Rinčević. There is NM, our race leader. The Richard Mills safety car. The lights will go out on the safety car. It will speed up and get up the road. And it will be the responsibility of those drivers, NM. And Ernst Kirchmeier, well, NM more than Ernst Kirchmeier. Ernst Kirchmeier will try and anticipate when NM is going to go for it, because it is his responsibility to control the pace of the restart. And only when he decides to give it everything will the race get underway once the cars have crossed the safety car line. So with a sense of anticipation, once again, here we go into the stadium section of this Hockenheim circuit. And the order is NM, Ernst Kirchmeier, Manuela Gosner, Cristiano Marchel, Zoe Skrimpias, Thomas Gosner, John Dillon, Oskar Rinčević, Mikael Martin, Germana Salernitano.
And then NM is still weaving, but I don't think it's going to be many more moments before he gives it a footful.
Okay. You know best, I am sure. Well, footful he giveth, and catcheth out Ernst Kirchmeier, in my opinion, who didn't anticipate that very well. However, others in the field probably did a better job. I'm thinking of John Dillon on Thomas Gosner, potentially, and Oskar Rinčević on John Dillon, who seem a bit closer. So let's see how we do then as we get the race resuming. And a car 161 gets a time penalty of 10 seconds for causing a collision. Now that is Thomas Gosner, Nico, and that will be for the contact with his von Skeltemer on the parabolica.
Yeah, probably I believe race control would think that racing room was not left in that instance, and let's see about racing room. NM is clearly putting the car on the inside, trying to prevent any overtake from Ernst Kirchmeier, and I think Ernst tried it, but I don't think he ran a little bit too wide there, and he has to slot back in. Now, has he extra momentum to make a move into the next sequence of turns? It's possible, but I think the gap was just a little bit too big in that instance. But fair play to Ernst for trying.
Whoa, and right behind, Manuela Gosner under pressure from Cristiano Marchel, who has gone through to pick up P3, Nico. So it would be Zoe Skrimpias then right behind Manuela Gosner right now, who's relegated to P4. Marchel is on something of a march as he goes up to P3. 10-second time penalty for Thomas Gosner indicated on the left-hand side of your screen on the graphics, as you can see. So Zoe Skrimpias next in the target sights. He has Manuela Gosner as Marchel gets up the road. So NM from Ernst Kirchmeier and Cristiano Marchel, the podium places, provisional podium places have changed. Ernst Kirchmeier certainly taking it to NM at the immediate point of the restart, but I think NM got it all under control now.
Yeah, absolutely. Now Zoe Skrimpias is in an interesting position because he's going to go the sandwich on track, even though Thomas has a penalty. But Manuel is his teammate, so it's kind of a very interesting situation that you don't get every day. And John Dillon obviously advantaged by the Gosner penalty, but he would like to get by. And there is again is that incident of
the overtake.
Of the overtake, absolutely, and well done.
It was a good overtake, to be fair.
Yeah, that's exactly how you gesture that. And again, Ernst Kirchmeier trying to go around the outside, and I'm clearly sticking on the inside.
I'll tell you what, Ernst is going to leave himself vulnerable here to Cristiano if he's not too careful, Nico.
Yeah, that was almost there. but he keeps it. I mean, the advantage that he has is the
Oh,
momentum.
NM gets a sideways moment. Forgive me interrupting you. That's probably cost him. I mean, it was a big save in fairness, but you could see the back end of the car really stepped out, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. And there you can see that now Zoe Scrimpius is putting the pressure on Manuel Agostino in the background. The two light blue cars very close to each other. I think Manuel just kept the position, but Zoe is really putting up the pressure. And actually, I think he's done the overtake.
I think you might be right there, because those cars have exchanged places. Well spotted, Nico. Zoe Scrimpius now up to P4, then Manuel Agostino relegated to P5. And clean and tidy overtake from Zoe Scrimpius, as we would expect of him, as he goes ahead of his teammate Manuel Agostino. And now he's been released from that cork in the bottle. He's up the road a bit. Cristiano Marchel, well, he's got 12 minutes and a lap in which to get hold of Cristiano Marchel. Now, the more, of course, that Cristiano Marchel can get on terms with Kirkmeyer and NM, the more, of course, that will slow them down as they begin to fight together. So it could play into their hands. Let's see what happens.
There is John Dillon in the background. He would so dearly love to get past Thomas Gostner because he would like to get on terms with Manuel Gostner.
Yeah, of course. And John will be well aware of the fact that Thomas has got a time penalty, and therefore his need to overtake him is actually by dint of the fact him wanting to be with Manuel Gostner rather than needing to make up that place, because he's going to get the place made up in any event. But of course he needs to get up the road. It's the second time that Kirkmeyer has really gone to the outside of that hairpin.
I think it's already the third time almost. And
look how close this is, Nico, now.
Yeah, and then Am is really putting the car in the best defensive position that he can muster. But Ernst Kirchmeier is really trying, giving him every different angle of where could I place the car, where could I pass you. Thus far, Am has been steady, but it's been fraught and close on a number of occasions.
It has, and I don't think it's over yet. So NM is feeling under threat and feeling under pressure, and Ernst Kirchmeier is really trying to heighten that pressure and that stress level, because it's at that point that a mistake might come. And that's all he needs, is just the gift of a small error, and that would be enough for him, like a viper, to go through and bite its prey. And that's what Ernst Kirchmeier is trying to do. Sorry. That's what I was trying to be poetic.
Ernst Kirchmeier runs really wide, keeps it together and settles it and adjusts the angle of trajectory at the exit of that turn. It cost him a little bit, and that allows an MM to breathe a little easy.
There is no doubt about it. Kirchmeier is quicker, parabolica and hairpin, isn't he?
Yeah, I think you can see that there is a little bit of a setup difference, where I think Ernst Kirchmeier has the car set up for the straights, whereas NM is probably a little bit quicker and more consistent through the turns, as Cristiano Marchel with another fastest lap, and that means he is reeling them in just a few tenths of a second, and he could buy into this.
He could be the big beneficiary, couldn't he? They go very close together, and Kirchmeier, it's just it's almost like a 100th that he needs, isn't it? That he's just being denied. I think, to be fair, NM is placing the car pinch point perfectly to deny Ernst the opportunity. We're going to get another 10 examples of that, potentially, if he doesn't make it stick before now.
Yeah, I think the fact that Cristiano Marchel is now in striking distance of Ernst Kirchmeier, that might change the strategy just a little bit. Otherwise, Ernst would try this over and over and over again, for sure.
Well, let's see. The top three have broken away from the rest of the pack significantly. NM controlling this race under immense pressure from Ernst Kirchmeier, and he in turn is under pressure from Cristiano Marchel in that car, the 171 car, as they head towards the timing line and put another lap in the book. We've got 8 3/4 minutes plus 1 lap remaining in this Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell race. We're live from the 4.574 kilometer Hockenheim circuit. Here comes Kirchmeier for the 5th time of trying to make it work around the parabolica and hairpin. NM is wise to it, though, and knows precisely where and how to place the car to deny Ernst the opportunity to go through. I don't think Kirchmeier is as close as he has been on previous laps. Absolutely, definitely not. But he is something of a king of the late breakers, and, well, He would need to be king, queen, and have them both combined for him to have been able to get on terms with NM on that lap, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm placing the car, and this time with a little bit of a gap. Track limits, not much of an issue today. However, Ernst Kirchmeier had 2 warnings, as is Manuela Gostner, so they really have to be careful. On the edge almost is John Dillon, who already picked up his 3rd one, so he can't afford any more slip-ups in that regard.
No, and he is running in that P7 position at the moment, but that will become, of course, P6 when Thomas Gostner takes his penalty at the end of the race. He's got a 10-second penalty to come for earlier mischief, as it were. So 7¼ minutes plus a lap of Ferrari Challenge Copichel at Hockenheim. At one point, NM was beginning to look a bit scrappy. For me now, he seems to have it more under control, Nico, and doesn't look as threatened as he once did from Ernst. But we've said it more than once, when you're running in the immediate aftermath of the car in front of you, you can't do that for lap after lap after lap. You've almost got to take a breather, haven't you, and revisit it again in a couple of laps' time just to let everything cool down, including yourself. But I think Ernst is closer this time around.
Yeah, I think so. I think NM is helped by the fact that he's got a little bit of a gap, or had actually, because now Ernst Kirchmeier looks like he's almost alongside. Not quite close enough, I believe, but that might yet change, because more trajectory, more momentum taken out of the turn by Ernst Kirchmeier. Now he tries the other side. Now he goes on the inside again. I think NM is wise to it, and Ernst Kirchmeier actually with a mistake there.
That's cost him.
Cristiano Marcial wasn't.
Ooh, again, I mean, NM is pushing, Nico. You can see the back end of that car. Really, you know, his team are seeing it as the same as we are as well. You know, he's defending, but he's still driving as fast as he possibly can.
Absolutely. Cristiano Marcial would have loved to be a little bit closer to Ernst Kirchmeier just a few hundred meters ago, but he wasn't, and therefore Ernst Kirchmeier retains that P2 position, but the gap clearly has opened up.
So what is Giacomo Altoe going to be able to tell Ernst Kirchmeier to do in the 5.5 minutes plus 1 lap that remains, Nico? I think Ernst's best opportunities at an overtake have probably come and gone. It's not to say that NM won't make an error. It's not to say that the fat lady won't sing. Anything could happen, and it is the Ferrari Challenge, so most likely will, and therefore it could change yet.
Yeah, let's see. Ernst Kirchmeier, he is so experienced, and maybe he will just need that 1 lap to recover and collect himself. Maybe. And with 5 minutes plus a lap remaining, there is still a few laps to be done. And let's see. But NM, I think now that he is not under immediate pressure, it allows him to be a little bit more steady, a little bit more controlled.
Yes. Smoother, more comfortable. So there is the NM car, which is leading this race on behalf of Rosso Corsa. For Kessel Racing, it's Ernst Kirchmeier in P2, and for the FBO Motorsports Organisation, it's Cristiano Marcial that's running in P3 at the moment. Then we have 2 Ineco Reporter Castle Ram drivers together, Zoe Scrimpius and Manuela Gostner, ahead of yet another Gostner, that being Thomas Gostner for CDP MP Racing. However, he has got a 10-second time penalty to be awarded at the end of the race, which will drop him down the order. Marcial looking a bit wayward now, and Ernst Kirchmeier, I think he's beginning to run out of time and perhaps optimized grip available to him, Nico. He's pushed really, really hard for lap after lap after lap, hasn't he?
Yeah, that's at least how it looks currently, but let's see. Last time around, NM with a 1:41.30, Ernst Kirchmeier actually with a 1:49.58, so he did make up 0.3 of a second the last time around. The gap's now 1.2 seconds, 3.5 minutes remaining, plus that 1 extra lap that we're being gifted this year. Manuela Gostner, Thomas Gostner, there is John Dillon.
So 3 minutes and a lap. The Gostner's contingent P5 and P6, I remind you, That's P5 and P6 on track. That P6 will not be P6 come the end of the race. Because of that reason, you can see on the graphics plus 10 seconds to be awarded to his race time of Thomas Gosner. So that will take him down the order and elevate those that are immediately behind. So NM with a second's margin over Ernst Kirchmayr. Has he done enough? Has he seen off the threat from the driver from Kessel Racing, Ernst Kirchmayr, who has done an awful lot of racing in the Ferrari Challenge? Had a torrid time of it yesterday. Speed camera then revealing just how quick our Ferrari Challenge 296 cars are. The gap has come down a little bit again. I think it's all coming just a bit too late, Nico.
We will see. The last time around, Ernst was quicker. First sector, this lap was an overall best for Ernst, and he was
He's disappeared, Nico. Cristiano Marchell has gone by. There is Ernst Kirchmayr.
Oh, he's got a problem of some description, it seems, for a moment at least.
Whether he made a mistake or Cristiano Marchell has gone through to P2, yeah. The car is ill handling. I wonder if he's got a slow puncture perhaps, because here comes Zoe Skrimpias now. Zoe Skrimpias taking a look at the inside of Ernst Kirchmayr. He's clearly trying to nurse the car, isn't he? There is some issue with it. There is no question about that. So just as you were talking about, he would have an opportunity maybe to come again. I think something has developed with either whether he made a mistake or he's not as quick as he once was, and all of a sudden even a podium looks imperiled now because Zoe Skrimpias taking a look at the inside. And it depends on the traction out of this hairpin. Going to get Zoe Skrimpias is not able. Now let's take a look. Oh, he spun, Nico. So that was the mistake. Now, we didn't see the very start of what happened there, but perhaps he just ran over the curbs a bit too much and that caused the car to go around.
Yeah, he definitely pushed for everything and more, and that was just a little bit too much. And as you say, now I think maybe there was still some dirt on the tires from his slip, and that meant that he didn't have the traction immediately and lost more time. Now it looks like he has recovered and regained his momentum, but obviously he's in the clutches of Zoe Skrimpias, and it's going to be 2 more laps after the conclusion of this one. And Zoe Skrimpias certainly can sniff a podium. He can sniff a podium, and he will want and try and do everything he can to get that.
Absolutely, he would love a podium. He would love to take a podium here. Ernst Kirchmayr would love to take a podium as well. So as the cars have crossed the line, we've got the remainder of this lap plus 1 more, Nico, if my calculations are correct.
Yeah, absolutely. Now the clock has hit quadruple zeros, but obviously the lap has started, and NM is ahead of this group by around 4.5 seconds. So it's the remainder of this plus a full lap after that.
So still time for things to change. And what did we say in the Ferrari Challenge? Expect the unexpected. Here is our race leader, NM. Here is Zoe Skrimpias then tracking Ernst Kirchmayr for all his worth. Ernst places the car right in the middle of that hairpin turn, which is exactly where he needs to place it to prevent Zoe Skrimpias having a go at him. However, you and I both know in the next sequence of turns you can still make it work, but I don't think Zoyce is close enough.
No, exactly. Now, Ernst tried the overtake through that sequence a number of times, didn't quite make it, and now he's in the other roles are reversed. He is now in the defensive role in that battle.
Yes, so he is defending the podium place that he's got provisionally. Zoe Skrimpias, of course, wants to take that away from him. Cristiano Marchell is not without strife himself, because he is within shouting distance. And the other thing to bear in mind is that Zoe Skrimpias is on his final track limits warning.
Yeah, he just picked up the 3rd warning on the 1st sector, so Zoyce, in his attempt to get by, he needs to be careful not to pick up another one, because that would throw all chances for a podium out the window, and he would actually drop behind Manuela Gostner if he did, so he really has to be careful. But I think the difference between P3 and P4 is arguably bigger than between 4 and 5.
For sure. What's interesting is Cristiano Marchell has not got 1 track limit, and he's running P2.
Yeah,
which proves you can keep it within the white lines, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, he's not been as much involved in direct battles, which certainly must have helped. But, you know, still very cool, calm, and steady, Cristiano Marcial in this race here today.
So on the final lap, we are then of this Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell race. And here is the ghostly contingent of Manuela and Thomas, who on track are P5 and P6. I mean, Manuela should stay P5. Thomas, unfortunately, his P6 is imperiled by virtue of the fact he's got a 10-second time penalty. And he's certainly not 10 seconds ahead of, I mean, that would drop him back down to P10, wouldn't it? NM, 3.9 seconds to the good ahead of Cristiano Marcial and Ernst Kirchmayr. Zoe Skrimpias really taking it to Ernst Kirchmayr, but nothing doing. I think the margin of a second between them or so. And there is NM then rounding the final sequence of turns. There's Cristiano Marcial. And the checkered flag is being readied for our drivers as we speak to bring to a close the races of the Ferrari Challenge on round 3 here at Hockenheim. And NM takes his first victory of the season. And he wins ahead of Cristiano Marcial, P2, and then P3 for Ernst Kirchmayr. Then it will be Zoe Skrimpias ahead of Manuela Gostner, those two teammates together. John Dillon takes P6. Then it is Michael Martin, Oscar Rinčević. Thomas Gostner finishes effectively P9. So the winner is NM, Nico. And for something that promised a heck of a lot towards the end of the race, through one small error from Ernst Kirchmayr, that kind of changed the look of the end of that race, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. We certainly wouldn't have expected that order at the checkered flag, but it just goes to show that, you know, you have to work very, very hard for a long time to make a move, and sometimes it's a minuscule mistake, and all that work goes to naught. Well, not to naught. Ernst Kirchmayr still gets a podium out of this. I'm not sure if it's the most joyful podium he ever had, but he's worked hard over the weekend. He's shown all the pace. He didn't quite get the return on his invest. And M certainly did for today. He had to work hard in defense and did that very steadfast and very cool, calm and collected. Manuela Gostner continues her recovery, if you will. Had a torrid start to the season. Win yesterday, not quite as good, but a P5 today. Yeah. In so many ways, an interesting race, and just really reinforcing the fact that you cannot take the form guide. You cannot take the form guide and ascertain who is going to do what and where and when in the Ferrari Challenge, particularly in the Copa Shell category. So, wow, very, very exciting race. NM from Cristiano Marcial and Ernst Kirchmayr, the 1, 2, 3. And the sun shines upon the righteous and also upon the Hockenheim ring as the threats of the heavy cloud have gone away, Nico. Yeah, actually the sun comes out to greet the last part of the proceedings here at Hockenheim. Indeed so. And the sun certainly shone on NM, and it didn't come easy. Absolutely not. And I have to say, Nico, the car was not... The car-driver combo, I mean, he pushed really, really hard, and there were times when it was sideways and, you know, had to control it well and did so. Lots of celebrations and congratulations down there, Nico. And rightfully so. Rosa Corsa taking the win and celebrating that.
But it's normal for you.
There's Cristiano. Also being congratulated, Nico. And that's just out of the car. There is Giacomo Altoe going to him and saying, well, you know, we'll get the result in full in just a moment. In fact, we'll get it now. NM taking the win from Cristiano Marcial and Ernst Kirchmayr. Then it's Zoe Skrimpias, Manuela Gosner, John Dillon, Michael Martin, Oscar Rinčević picking up that P8 place. Bear in mind Thomas Gosner having taken a time penalty, and that means he finishes P9. It was Germano Salernitano P10 and von Skeltermar and Corinna Gosner. I regret very much not on the order DNFs for those two drivers. Right, let's take a look at the highlights right now. As Dr. Stephen Earle was congratulating. Right, here come the highlights this time. Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo, Pirelli drivers had been out and done their races. Now it was the turn of the Copa Shell cars. Ernst Kirchmeier then, driver of that car, and qualifying had been conducted in the wet weather conditions. It was certainly dry for the start of the race. Who was it going to be as they headed in towards turn number 1? Ernst Kirchmeier and NM on the front row, but NM holding back just a little bit and getting something of a slingshot here. It goes wide through turn number 1, but carries enough momentum to really challenge for the lead, and the lead is what he took away from Ernst Kirchmeier. Then von Skeltermar and Corinna Gosner having something of a coming together. And that would spell the end of the race for Corinna Gosner. And then, as if that were not enough, Thomas Gosner and von Skeltermar making contact as well. Cristiano Marchel and Zoe Skrimpias were trading places also. And von Skeltermar under pressure from John Dillon. All of a sudden, a load of smoke coming from the von Skeltermar tyres, which had perhaps been damaged by bodywork rubbing onto them, meant that that would be the end of his race. And Thomas Gosner would pick up a time penalty for being involved in that coming together between himself and von Skeltermar. A very uncharacteristic mistake from Ernst Kirchmeier cost him the P2 place, so through went Cristiano Marchel, but there was no mistaking the winner, NM, who did a fantastic job through turn 1 right at the start of the race and converted that into the race win ahead of Cristiano Marchel and Ernst Kirchmeier, managing to salvage P3. What a phenomenal Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell race. Podium is being readied as we speak, and stand by because Michele Mambelli, who will be bringing the drivers out onto the podium. There is the podium. And stand by, here comes Michele Mambelli.
The winner, third on the podium, Ernst Kirchmeier.
Ernst Kirchmeier taking P3 for Kessel Racing. I think he'll be probably a little bit relieved that he's able to salvage a podium out of this. Cristiano Marchel then P2. NM on the top step of the podium. And of course Rosso Corsa are there for the Copa Team Award.
Our claps for the winners. The trophy are presented by Davide Rigon.
Well, the national anthem that played out for NM as Davide Rigon, Ferrari factory driver, makes the trophy presentation to Ernst Kirchmeier. P2, of course, to Cristiano Marchel. Well done.
And Davide
Rigon then making the race winners trophy presentation to NM. And of course Rosso Corsa will be in receipt of yet another Copa Team's trophy award. Well done.
And now, please, guys, the drivers all on the first step of the podium, please, guys.
Everyone get together then as Michele Mambelli tries to herd the drivers into the appropriate places for the photographs. He's not always successful in doing that, it has to be said. Drivers are like sheep, aren't they? They don't always do as they're told. However, on this occasion they did. Who will win the champagne race? Cristiano Marchel. That's where my money is. Yes! I've got one thing right today. How about that? Ernst Kirchmeier for Kessel Racing P3. For FBO Motorsports P2, Cristiano Marchel. And then for the Rosso Corsa team, NM, driver of car 187. In the Drivers' Championship, Zoe Scrimpias leading now with 2 points ahead of Fabrizio Fontana, who's missing this weekend. John Dillon is P3 in the Drivers' Championship. And then it's Cristiano Marchel P4 with Manuel Agostner and Thomas Agostner P5 and 6. Christian Kinch and Fons Skeltermar P7 and P8. Then it is Oscar Rinchevich, NM, Tibor Valent, Ernst Kirchmeier, Ray Acosta, Eric Chung and Michael Martin. And they're ahead of James Wyland, Motohiko Isasaki, Corinna Gostner, Jan Sandman, and the other drivers that I didn't manage to name check. We've had a fantastic time here in Germany at Hockenheim, as the Ferrari Challenge has made its presence felt once again in this iconic German circuit. We look forward to seeing you in the Czech Republic of Brno next. But from all of us on the production side of things, I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have, and we'll see you in Brno. Bye-bye for now.
Erigon, our factory driver, please welcome him. Will stay with us during the weekend.
Now you need to choose.
Franco Shop Motors Brussels.
Un saluto a tutti, bentrovati.
Dramatic and tight.